Okay. Welcome to the Northborough Conservation Commission meeting of June 29th. This is Greg Young. I'm the current chair of the Conservation Commission. And this open meeting of Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Diane Gouldner.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
Justin Dufresne.
Here.
Kelly Marston.
Here.
And myself, Greg Young. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mia McDonald.
Here.
David Kane.
Present.
Some ground rules for tonight. For presenters and or applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by roll call vote. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. This is a new process for technology for many of us, and there are occasional and will be occasional hiccups. So I think the key word for tonight is patience. Diane, you're up.
Okay. You don't need the information about the password and all that stuff, do you? No? Good.
No.
No. The meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Continued notice of intent for 400 Cedar Hill Road, map 67, parcel 4, by Brian Mazar, New England FC, for proposed construction of an indoor-outdoor soccer facility with associated offices, parking, stormwater management facilities, utilities, and associated site work. Continued notice of intent for 0 and 301 Bartlett Street, map 51, parcel 3, map 66, parcel 16, by Israel Lopez of the Gutierrez Company for proposed construction of a 150,900 square foot warehouse distribution center with associated parking area, truck loading bays, access drive, grading, surface, infiltration basins, and drainage structures, utilities, lighting, landscaping, and associated infrastructure and site work. Notice of intent for Ridge Road within the town right-of-way by Scott Carpenter, Director, Northborough Department of Public Works, for proposed replacement of existing culvert and associated site work. Notice of intent for Lyman Street within the town roadway right-of-way by Scott Carpenter, Director, Northborough Department of Public Works, for proposed replacement of existing culvert and associated site work. Notice of intent for Davis Avenue within the town roadway right-of-way 5, 6, and 10 Davis, map 101, parcels 120, 38, and 37 by Scott Carpenter, Director, Northborough Department Public Works, for proposed replacement of existing culvert and associated site work. Notice of intent for lot A4A1, 343 Howard Street, map 20, parcel 1 by David Caney, for proposed driveway, single-family home, septic system, well, utility connections, and associated site work. Notice of intent for 161 Church Street, map 55, parcel 48 by Rajan Viswanathan, for proposed garage secondary to a single-family home and associated site work. Notice of intent for Harrington Lane, map 37, parcels 110, 111, and 112 by Craig Callahan, for the proposed completion of a roadway and drainage system and associated site work for previously approved under an expired order of conditions, DEP file 247-1116. Last but not least, request for determination of applicability for the railroad right-of-way by CSX Transportation Incorporated for confirmation of wetland boundaries in order to avoid impact to wetland resource area under the railroad's vegetative management plan.
Super. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Just a couple of notes here before we get into the heart of this. The large agenda tonight. We haven't met in a couple of months, and we may not finish everything we have on our agenda tonight. We are meeting again in 10 days on July 8th. So items would move over to that date if they have not requested to do already, which a couple have. We're also going to have a hard stop at 9:30, no later than. There's work that needs to be done after that from a technical perspective before this can be set onto a YouTube environment. And we have one violation that must be addressed tonight, as it has town meeting funding implications. So we're going to make sure we get that on the agenda. Tom Beals has joined us. Tom, can you unmute yourself and say present, please? Or I can do that for you.
Yep, present.
All right. So we have a quorum. We're good. Everybody's here. Should be here. Let's see. Let's talk about meeting minutes first. Now we have two sets of meeting minutes here. We have February 3rd and March 9th. February 3rd, I think, was a special meeting, right? That was for the 5 Goddard Road piece. That was the only item we had. It was a 45-minute meeting. Myself, Diane, and Tom were here. Wayne was here, Baldelli. He's no longer on the commission, so we only have 3 of the 4 members that can vote. Do we want to go ahead and open it up to the rest of the group in lieu of that?
Yes, let's do.
Okay. They're fairly straightforward. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes of February 3?
Not me.
No.
No.
We need a motion then?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes February 3rd as presented.
Tom Beals makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Diane Goldner, and roll call vote. Diane Goldner.
Present.
No. Yes. You say aye or, okay. Tom Beals.
Aye.
Aye. Todd Helwig.
Aye.
Justin Dufresne.
Aye.
Kelly Marston. You're on mute, Kelly. You're on mute.
Aye.
Aye, okay, and myself will, I will, aye also. So it's a unanimous vote on the February 3rd meeting minutes. And then we did approve the regular February meeting minutes in March, I believe. So the March meeting minutes, March 9 meeting minutes, Justin and Tom were not present. So it's myself, Todd, Diane, and Kelly. Any questions on the meeting minutes of March 9? No
Yeah, fine.
questions. So we need a motion to accept them
Move to accept.
by Todd Helwig, seconded by Kelly Marston. Diane Goldner,
Aye.
Tom.
Accept.
Actually, no, it's just Diane Goldner, Todd Helwig,
Aye.
Kelly Marston,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. Meeting minutes of March 9th approved. One more item before we jump into the fund expenditures. Mia, in terms of signing documents tonight, we're going to allow, you're going to take care of that for all the group, and we want to vote on that one, correct? So we need a proposal, a motion that Mia McDonald will sign all of our names on the documents tonight, which is allowed by, I believe, town council.
I
I
move
so
that
moved.
we allow Mia to sign documents on our behalf.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Diane
God, this is
Diane
awful.
Goldner,
Yes,
Tom Beals,
either one. I don't care.
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Aye.
Justin Dufresne,
Aye.
Kelly Marston,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So Mia, you'll take care of that for us. Thank you. Okay. Vote to expend funds. We have two items, Mia, right? We've got the removal of some hazardous trees on Smith Road and treatment of Bartlett Pond. Tell us about the Smith Road piece.
This is the same trees we spoke about before. There's a resident in Berlin who abuts one of your parcels on Smith Road. It's a Mount Pisgah parcel, and he has some dangerous trees. Our tree warden, who's also our DPW director, Scott Charpentier, and I visited it on February 14th, and we found that there were 4 pine trees that need to come down. We got a quote from Templeman Tree Service. In the March meeting, we had said that we would just go ahead and do it, but the quote came in much higher than what we have in our regular land maintenance budget. So you have to vote, if you can, have a discussion and vote to approve spending $5,600 from the conservation fund to remove these trees. And they are a hazard, and they have been reported as so. So any property damage, we would be liable. So we should remove them as soon as possible.
How much more is it than we thought it would be?
We had no idea. We had like $2,000 in our land management. We thought we could cover it, but it came in much higher. They're very large. They're those, 80 to 100 foot tall.
You need cranes and so forth, and it gets expensive when you start bringing that equipment in. So.
Yes.
Did we just get one quote?
We're using the DPW's contractor and going under their insurance and their contract. So
Okay.
it's cheaper and easier for the town if we use their contractor.
Okay.
And it's under $10,000.
Okay. Has it been done yet, or are you waiting for the approval?
It has not been done yet.
Is there a plan? I mean, if they're dangerous, it should be done sooner versus later.
As soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we need a motion to
Okay.
expend funds.
I make a motion that we approve the $5,600 to remove hazardous trees at 0 Smith Road.
Second.
Motion by Tom Beal, second by Justin Dufresne. Voting, Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston. Kelly's on mute again. Kelly Marston
Yes.
and Greg Young, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Smith Pond, Mia. Sorry, Bartlett Pond. There is a
Bartlett
Smith
Pond.
Pond, but Bartlett Pond. I saw the note on that one. So where are we with that? We're looking for money out of CPC, right?
And if you even want to do any treatment, originally there was a CPC application to treat Bartlett Pond this year.
Yeah.
And we were going to use, money from the conservation fund as we proceed along through these months to
Yeah.
start it this year. But we weren't able to do that because we didn't meet. Now there's a lot more biomass in the pond, so they have to use more chemicals. So it's going to cost more. We could get a July treatment in and knock it back, or you could postpone it till next year and start that year. The long-term management was to do it every year to try to knock it back down to nothing. That was a long-term plan.
So what
I
would the
think
number
that-
be this year if it was a one year
This
hit?
year it will be 35,000. And I think we had in our CPC, we had said it was going to be $26,000, 26,950 was what we had estimated in our CPC application is what it was going to cost this year. Now it's going to cost 35,750 to
Do
do
we
it.
have the money in the conservation fund?
You do, as most of your conservation fund.
Right.
And you could
Right.
also wait till you get that CPC money, your CPC application, when we voted on at the town meeting on July 11th, and you're asking for 59,000.
And what happens?
I
if
think we
wait?
should postpone it and wait until we get the CPC approval, and then we can do the long-term management. And it's such a late start this year. I think we should start fresh next year.
What's the implication of us doing that, Mia? Are we prolonging, are we lessening the success probability? Or is it really negligible?
Every year Bartlett Pond gets overgrown, and every year it gets a little bit more overgrown. But remember, it is a pond that's only 3 to 5 feet deep. It's mostly 3 feet deep, which is all littoral zone, which means you're going to get growth throughout
Yeah.
the whole pond every year. No one's swimming in it. It's still kayakable. I visited it. It's still usable. It's not, historically 20 years ago before Wayne and his crew got a hold of it. It's still in good condition. You could really go either way. It's really it's going to be a lot more money to treat it this year. It's also going to be more chemicals. And I know we've gotten a lot of comments about the amount of chemicals being used. And when you have more biomass, you need more chemicals.
This is Todd. I agree with Tom. Hold off until we can do it right next year. It was sort of consistent with what we told the CPC was what we were doing anyway.
Mhm.
Right, and then we can
Right to me.
continue right along for the next 5 years.
Sorry, Justin, what you said? Did
No, I
somebody
was gonna
say?
say, that seems right to me too. I would just wait. I mean, I feel like, we wanted to hit it early and, kind of get any chemicals we needed in there, and, now we're just a little too late. So I think wait till next year.
Anybody else? Kelly, Diane?
I think
Um,
that's a great idea.
Diane?
I'd like to know, if they can get started earlier. Is there a time limit on the start date? Do they have to wait for specific weather conditions or something? 'Cause I think that would make a difference about how they clean it.
Next year, yes, we can contract them, after town meeting, and if the funding gets approved, we can contract them to begin in as early as they can get out there next year, and we'll be first on the list.
Well, what does as early as?
Late May.
Okay,
It has to
so-
emerge. The vegetation starts to emerge, and they
Okay.
hit the seedlings.
Okay,
So it seems like that's the consensus here. So hold off for a year. So do you need a motion on that one also so we can vote it?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we postpone the weed treatment at Bartlett Pond till next year.
Okay,
Second,
second by Todd. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself, yes. So unanimous, we will do nothing this year with Bartlett Pond.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. We have a couple of items that have requested to continue. We should vote those to me, all right?
Yes.
First one is the notice of intent for 161 Church Street. That's a proposed garage and some site work, riverfront area. And the second one is an RDA for railroad right-of-way CSX. CSX wants to postpone or to continue till next month, July 8th. And 161 Church wants to postpone to August 12th. So I think we just need a motion and a vote to have both of those happen.
I move that we wait on CSX. Maybe the vegetation will be in a different state and they can get at it easier. They usually do it every year, don't they? I
Yes.
think
I know it's been, go ahead, Diane.
no, I was gonna say, I think they do come every year with this.
Is this, are you putting forth a motion?
Yeah, let us wait until next.
No, the what would be a request for continuation to July
All
8th.
right, continue it until next meeting.
July, yes.
Okay,
Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Todd. Diane Goldner,
yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself, yes. Continuation of CSX. I also need a motion to continue 161 Church Street until August 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kelly or Diane? It was, okay, Kelly seconded. Voting. Diane,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself, yes. Moved to August 12th. Okay, thank you. So first up here, we're going to deal with the three DPW culvert replacement, Road, Lyman Street, and Davis Ave. So now I've got to bring some people in here.
You should bring in, it looks like Art Allen is here. You've also
that
have
Arthur?
the
Just
engineer Megan
Arthur?
McDevitt. She's the engineer from Woodard and Curran is present, and Scott Charpentier.
Okay, so Scott Charpentier, I'm going to bring in. And who else did you say? Megan?
Megan
Mc-
McDevitt and Arthur Allen.
Done. I got to get them off of Payless here. Okay. Scott, Megan, can you hear us?
Yes,
Megan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. And who was the last one? Arthur Allen?
I'm here, yes.
I see you. Okay. I see Scott. Very good. I don't see Megan. I see Megan now too. Okay. Everybody's here. The gang is all here. All right. Scott, these are all similar activities, right? But there are three separate ones. We're going to address each one on its own on that one.
that's correct, Mr. Chairman. There's three separate culverts, three separate locations, all of them relatively in-kind replacements. They've been evaluated by our engineer. They're in failing conditions, and we're in the permitting process, as you know.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with Ridge Road. What's the detail there?
Gonna have Art present 1, 2, 3, and Megan and I will be here for technical responses if need be.
Perfect.
All yours, Art.
Thank you, Scott. Arthur Allen from Ecotech Incorporated, project wetland scientist and representative. We delineated the wetland resource areas at, we'll start with Ridge Road, is that correct?
Yes.
Ridge Road, which is a existing 36-foot long, 36-inch diameter, deteriorated corrugated metal pipe that carries a perennial stream under Ridge Road. Proposing to replace it with a 29-foot long, 4-foot wide by 2-foot high concrete box culvert and head walls. So it's going to be slightly shorter. So we're actually creating a small amount of additional wetland resource area as a result of the project. There'll be temporary alterations with restoration for stream bank, for land underwater, for riverfront area associated with the perennial stream, and for bordering land subject to flooding. Again, a small amount of wetlands being created and a small amount of flood storage due to the shorter culvert. We proposed after construction to stabilize the stream itself with riprap to prevent scouring and erosion, and then the native seed mix and erosion control blankets on the slopes to button it all up and stabilize it. So that's just a quick description of the project, and I'll turn it over for questions.
Mia, do you have any questions? Are you all set with your piece here? Are we going to see anything? Do you have any, does Megan or anybody have anything to share?
We got our DEP comments over the weekend.
Yep.
And I spoke with Scott Jordan about them earlier. And the only question that remained that I think we'd like to have the engineer comment on is that DEP said that right now it's kind of inverted. It has a positive slope, and we're going to be changing it to a negative slope. And DEP questioned whether that would have any impact on the downstream side.
Oh, hi, everyone. Megan McDevitt from Woodard and Curran. We're the project engineer of record on this project. So I think it's the other way around. Currently, the pipe has a negative slope. And since we're going to replace it, we want to switch it to a positive slope, as we would like to see most of our culverts, so that they're providing flow in the right direction. It's just a minor change. It has a very small negative slope currently, and it would have just a slight positive slope. In looking at our stormwater model, it provides very little difference to velocities, like less than a foot per second increase during storm events. So we do not anticipate they would have any negative impact downstream of the culvert due to fixing or correcting the slope on it.
Thank you. The other, oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, Mia, go ahead.
The other DEP comment is they wanted us to consider restoring the bank with bioengineering methods like quar logs and plantings rather than riprap. And Scott had said that they were considering using some of that to revising the plans to the downstream side, to keeping the armoring on the upstream side, but maybe the downstream side. So as far as this Ridge Road, do you recommend, Scott and Megan and Art too, is there going to be any change in the downstream side?
That is something we can definitely change and add to the plans to appease the DEP and to try to implement some green bioinfrastructure and limit the hardscaping. The riprap or the stone is really limited to the stream bed itself. There was never an intent of putting any stone on the banks. That was always going to be vegetated. But we can add some core logs right at the base of the head wall where the grading ties into it on the downstream side of the culvert.
Scott Jordan and I had talked about, a DEP was looking for it up along the entire riverfront area. But Scott Jordan and I said, as far as a maintenance issue, it's not a good idea to be planting shrubs along the side of the road. So Scott Charpentier, do you feel the same way that, we'll keep the side of the road that way and the plantings and the quar logs will be down along the bank?
There's a bit of a contraction and expansion velocity issue when the railroad culvert is releasing a large wetland on the other side of it. So the ability to install proper armoring on both sides is what the DPW would like to see. We had some vortexing issues on the downstream side after the railroad culvert was released this past spring and Ridge Road was closed for a little while. Those scour holes we had to fill. My preference is to not have to go back and refill scour holes in the future. So any ability we have to properly armor, not just the invert of the stream bed, but at least up the side of the culverts a little bit to capture those expansion vortexes would be helpful.
I agree. I think in this scenario, it might be better to armor both sides. I just wanted to address it because it was a DP comment. Maybe the commission could discuss that. This site is just downstream of that blocked railroad culvert that got released this spring.
Okay. So your point, you're suggesting armoring?
Yeah, the upstream is a pretty expansive wetland. There really isn't a nice defined stream bed. I mean, if you look at Davis Ave, there's more of a defined streamway. This is a pretty expansive wetland. And when you have a really wide water body channeling into for lack of a better term, narrowed culvert, you get a contraction velocity change that could scour the inlet side. And it's not just at the base of the culvert, it's along the sides as well. And the last thing I want to see is piping along the sides. So any ability we have to armor that, address those velocities on the inlet and discharge side is preferred.
Seems reasonable. Seems reasonable. Is there
I
any
agree.
specific armoring you want to see me, or you want to leave that up to the engineers?
It currently shows, I think it's 8 to 10 inch riprap, angular riprap, and I think that's fine. This was a performance standard that DEP
Okay.
recommends, vegetating where you can. But I think in this, just for Ridge Road, we'll talk about the next 2 culverts next. But at this location, I do think armoring upstream and downstream is best.
I did speak with Scott Jordan earlier today about an option to set the riprap arming, the trap rock, a little shallower, meaning deeper into the embankments, and utilizing some on-site spoils as sort of a chinking and material on top of the stone. It'll end up sedimenting in the future anyway, but at least that'll propagate that process.
Okay. Anything else, Mia, from your side?
Was that just on the downstream side, Scott? That would be a plan revision?
We would do that on both upstream and downstream with one standard detail at the Ridge Road culvert.
And this is Art Allen. I assume that would get the seed mix above the water line, right, Scott? Yeah.
Correct.
So me, we want to bake that into the order?
Yes, you can do a condition for revised plans. You can either hold off on issuing it until we receive revised plans showing that, or you can just make it a condition in the order saying revised plans shall be submitted showing shallow riprap on the upstream and downstream side and the wetland seed mix and erosion control blanket shall be used.
Okay. All right. Question I have is, it sounds like the pipe's going to be 7 feet shorter but wider. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's the same, it's going to be more efficient than what's there now.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the commission?
None for me.
No,
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm good with this one.
Then we need a motion.
Do we need to take comments from the public?
We certainly can. Thank you. Any questions from the public? I'm looking for raised hands or phone numbers. Okay. I see none. Now we need a motion.
Well, we
Make
close-
a motion to issue an order of conditions for Ridge Road.
First, we have to close the hearing. Sorry.
we forget that.
We'll get this down, Mia. Don't worry.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
We have to all vote that. So Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Don Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes,
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself. Yes, we will close. We have closed the hearing. Now a motion to move forward
we have to discuss the conditions. So far, we have the condition for revised plans. Do you want to hold off on issuing till you get the revised plans? Maybe Megan and Art could comment on this. If the revised plans are going to take some time, we could just make it a condition. Or if you want to submit the revised plans and then we release the order.
It won't take us very long to revise those plans. There's a holiday this week, so I would anticipate it's something we could have to you sometime next week. We're happy to do it either way, whatever works best for the commission.
Okay, I would suggest we issue it after we get the revised plans,
Sure.
if that's okay. And then, so we'll need to see those revisions. And then as far as any other conditions the commission would like to see, I mean, obviously we want it conducted during low flow. And any dewatering, we'll have that standard dewatering condition where they can't direct it into the wetland directly. They have a dewatering detail on the plan. Any
Mhm.
other conditions you'd like to see?
We want to keep the street clean, right?
I would like a pre-construction conference. And we can just do that in town hall with Scott and I
Okay.
and the contractor, or on site. I can just meet the contractor on site. I just want to make
Okay.
sure he has a copy of the order, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm looking at some notes here. Apparently, all three of these items are groundwater overlay district.
Are they? Yeah.
And there's this question about fueling taking place on hard paved surfaces outside the buffer and have spill kits on site.
Yes. Thank
That
you.
apply to all three locations, right?
Yes.
Okay. Scott, do you have timing? Do you have any timing issues here? I mean, if we wait a week, I mean,
There's no timing issues. We have to put together the final bid package, put it on the street for bid
Yeah.
with hopes of a contract award, late July, construction, August, September, when it's low flow. That's our goal and objective. So there's plenty of time to amend any drawings.
okay, all right, fine. So I guess we'll move ahead with approval once you get the drawings in hand.
And one more thing is we'd like a copy of are you going for a 401 water quality for this?
I do not believe so.
No, and no Army Corps.
We have submitted to Army Corps. And we're
Okay, so
waiting
just-
to hear back from them.
We'll just need a copy of that.
Of course. Yep.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, so are we going to just continue this to the next meeting then for Ridge Road?
No, we're going to vote one way or the other. And if it's approved, Mia will not issue the order until she receives that documentation update.
Okay, so I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for Ridge Road with the revised plans and the additions that Maya included.
Okay,
Second,
Todd Helbig seconds. Roll call, Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes,
Todd Helwig,
yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
Greg Young, yes. Unanimous, carried. Next one is Lyman Street.
Again, Arthur Allen from Ecotech Incorporated, a wetland scientist. We delineated the wetland resource areas, prepared the notice of intent, working with Woodard and Curran on the engineering. This is an existing 46-foot long, 12-inch corrugated plastic pipe culvert within a deteriorated 24-inch corrugated metal pipe culvert that also carries a perennial stream, this time under Lyman Street. Propose to remove those, replace with a 45-foot long, 40-inch diameter corrugated plastic pipe, and then head walls. And there'll be temporary alterations with restoration to bank, land underwater, riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding. This will also be stabilized with riprap to prevent scour, and then native seed mix and erosion control blankets on the slopes. I believe there was some discussion on this one also about the bioengineering core logs. And I might refer that back to Megan about what she believes she can design in regards to that.
Thank you, Art. Again, Megan McDevitt, Woodard and Curran, project manager and engineer of record. Similar to the last project we just discussed, it was from DEP that they wanted the core logs and the bioengineering on the side slopes. We're going with the angular rock or riprap in the bank. Should the DPW want to do the similar detail as we just proposed for Ridge Road, we could do the rock deeper and put the soil and the seeding on top of it to create the look of vegetation, but to provide the stability of the riprap underneath so that we don't get any scour or vortexing on the banks. Very similar design. We'll have the head walls. This one also has a wetland area in front of it. So providing that kind of protection and long-term maintenance is important.
Scott, do we have the same issues here with armoring as we had in the previous one?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's a very similar situation. The DPW, years and years before me, slipped a high-density polyethylene pipe inside of a failing corrugated metal. The pipe didn't go all the way in due to the failing condition. There's a contraction issue currently on the upstream side. It's a very wide, expansive wetland on the upstream side.
Yep.
On the downstream side, it's relatively shallow a slope that has that 12-inch pipe discharge. It's a very, very similar condition as Ridge Road.
Is this the pipe that has the wetland by A. Dewey Pile on the other side? Down by, yes?
No, it is not. No, it is not. It is. It's right by the hot dog guy. Soon as you turn off of Bartlett and Lyman, the hot dog guy, that first pipe.
Yeah.
You've seen there's a new guardrail on one side of it, and the water has actually come up and nearly crested the road just because of that 12-inch pipe restriction, catches sticks and debris that gets sucked into the 24. It's a problem spot for sure.
Okay. Mia, questions, comments from you? What do you want to see on here?
I'd like to see that same plan revision that we talked about, sinking the rock deeper with the seat on top. And DEP also asked if an open bottom box culvert was available in this area. I don't think it is because of existing utilities, but I'd like to have you guys discuss that.
Yes, there is an existing water main that runs beneath this culvert. So going with open bottom would either require us to have to raise the elevation of the road, which we are in bordering land subject to flooding. So we'd fill the floodplain if we raise the road, or we would have to drive the existing water main even deeper, which would put it below the water elevation of the adjacent wetlands, making long-term maintenance extremely difficult. And then we'd have to consider loading. When you start to go to open bottom, you have loading of those footings and the impact they would have on the water main. So it'd be pretty cost prohibitive to go to open bottom here. We are increasing it from this, what was once a 24-inch pipe that got sleeved with a 12-inch pipe. We are proposing a 48-inch pipe that will be embedded to have that natural stream bottom. So we are trying to meet the stream crossing standards to the greatest extent possible, given this is an existing crossing that we're replacing.
I agree.
Anything else, Mia?
No, that's all.
How about any of the commissioners have questions or comments here?
None for me.
I think Megan answered it for me. That was going to be mine, is whether or not we could just embed, a pipe with a little bit of material in there, but sounds like they're doing that. So good job.
Super. Scott, a little bit out of our jurisdiction here, but when you're doing this work, you're going to shut down the roads, right?
We're going to maintain one bidirectional traffic, one lane bidirectional. I could not shut down Lyman Street.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, yeah. Davis Ave you could probably get away with, but not Lyman Street for sure. So.
Davis and Ridge we expect to shut down, but Lyman, that's not even thought.
Yeah. Okay. Mia, I presume that we'd have conditions similar to the ones we had on Ridge Road.
I think it's exactly the same. During low flow, the dewatering, street sweeping, pre-construction crop fence, fueling on paved surfaces, a copy of the Army Corps permit, and the revised plans showing the shallower riprap with the C-mix on top.
Then we need a motion to close the hearing. Oh, yes, then we'll take public comments.
Make a motion, we close the hearing.
Don't close the hearing. We have to do public comments first.
We'll get this down. We'll be great
Damn.
by July 8th.
This is what you
pay.
paid
Hey.
for. It's fine.
We're doing what the guy in charge said.
Any questions from the public? Okay, I see none. Now we can close the hearing.
Make the same motion.
To close the hearing, right. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second.
Diane seconds.
No, Kelly,
Kelly seconds.
I think.
Diane Goldner. We're voting.
Yes.
Don Beals.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Justin Dufresne.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I will also say yes. So it's a unanimous vote. Lyman Street. Davis Avenue.
I'm sorry, we need a motion to issue the order of condition
Need a list.
Okay, is there a motion? Is there a motion to issue the order of conditions?
with the special conditions that we talked
With the
about.
special conditions as previously noted, yes. Yes.
Making a list.
Is there a
I
motion?
make a motion to issue order conditions for Lyman Street with the conditions discussed.
Second.
Seconded by Justin. We're voting. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
Todd, you got to do it about 30 more times, just so you know. Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Lyman Street, done. Davis Avenue.
Arthur Allen from Ecotech again, project wetland scientist. Davis Ave is an existing 62-foot long, 54-inch diameter deteriorated corrugated metal pipe that also carries a perennial stream, in this case under Davis Avenue. Proposed to replace it with a 60-foot long, 54-inch diameter reinforced concrete pipe culvert and head walls. Again, temporary alterations to stream bank, land underwater, riverfront area, and borderland subject to flooding with restoration. Stabilizing again with the riprap to prevent scour, with the native seed mix and erosion control blankets on the slope. And I'll again bounce this to Megan to discuss the alternative stabilization, if any, is possible.
Thank you, Megan McDevitt, Woodard and Kern, project engineer, or project engineer of record for the project. As mentioned, David, I think Scott Charpentier mentioned this earlier, Davis Ave is much more of a very defined stream channel. So we also have wings walls to our head walls here to provide some additional stabilization and protection to the areas right upstream and downstream in the culvert. So should the commission want us to look at adding some core logs or some bioengineering at the base of the banks that get disturbed, that is something we can look at doing. Otherwise, we can try to keep all the projects very consistent and do the similar stone with the additional soil and wetland seeding on the banks, just so that we have consistent construction through all the projects, and that keeps the DPW's construction and maintenance consistent for the years to come. But this one, with it not having the big wetland area, it does have a little more flexibility.
Mia, thoughts on that?
I would like to see, I mean, it is a stream, it's flowing pretty well. I don't think it needs the armoring of the other two sites. It'd be nice to see some other, as long as it's not cost prohibitive.
We'd be happy to have a more robust stream restoration approach in the project as a bid alternate. That'll address any cost prohibitive components to it. This culvert is limited in size because directly downstream, less than 100 feet away, is a culvert of the same diameter going under actually Davis Street. I'm sorry, going on the South Street. So there's not a lot of opportunity here for any improvements. We had utilities going underneath. The culvert has failed twice in the past 3 years, requiring repairs. So, if there's an opportunity to better a stream bed, I would recommend, if anywhere, on the upstream side of this, because considering downstream is simply a channel from one head wall to another. That's, I don't know how long it is, Megan, maybe 80 feet. It's
That's
not
about
very
it.
long,
Less than less than 100.
right? So if there was an opportunity to better a stream bank, it would be on the upstream side of this culvert, and we'd be happy to include it as a bid alternate.
Yeah, we took a walk out there, Scott. It's really, it's in bad shape. You know, the road, the pieces above it too is just, as you know, there's been some collapsing and degradation and yeah. Any questions from the commission? Comments?
Not for me.
Well,
No, was that Diane trying to say something?
I said no,
No, okay.
no questions.
No questions. Let's check with the public. Any questions from anybody on the phone or on Zoom? I see none. Motion to close the hearing.
I
Make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll
Tom Beal's
second it.
motion. Who seconded?
Me, Diane.
Diane seconded. Voting, Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Now we need a motion to issue the order with the conditions as previously noted, plus, Mia, how do you want to word this other one here, the other approach?
So revised plans
it.
showing the bid alternate for a more robust restoration
Okay.
that can be included on the revised plans.
Okay.
A detail.
Or motion.
Okay, let's make a motion for Davis Ave, issue or order conditions with the revised plans and the bid alternate.
Second.
Second by Todd Helwig. Voting, Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Unanimous. Carried. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Scott, just before you go, what's the overall timeline here for all three of these?
Our goal and objective is to get them substantially complete this season.
All three of them?
But
Okay.
yeah, that's the goal and objective. The restoration component, if it gets awarded, will obviously take probably the growing season in the fall and then the subsequent spring season for evaluation.
Luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so now I gotta do that. All right, I think we're good. Looks good. All right. 400 Cedar Hill Street. This is a continuation from a while ago. We had this on the docket for a few months. This is the proposed indoor-outdoor soccer facility. So let's see who's here for this. We've got,
Rich Riccio, he's present.
okay. That's it. No Brian Mazer. Okay.
We can ask him if he'd like him to share his screen, but I know Brian's present.
Yep. I'll bring Brian in too. Okay. There's Rich. And should see Brian too. I promoted him.
Yep.
All right. There's Brian.
Mr. Chair, we also have Jason Braga from NEFC. That should be
Okay,
in the waiting room, and Scott Kosterich. They,
got them.
great, thank you.
Should have both of them. Okay. Mia, for the most, if I remember this one, we were pretty pleased with the way they were going, right? We had asked for a couple of changes over time. They had made the change, I think, to parking lot size and a few other items.
Yes, and where we left it, we had a couple outstanding items that have all been addressed since then.
Okay,
And they were to get the DEP file number. Was that? Nope. Sorry, wrong notes. Let me grab the correct notes.
what do I have here?
Here we go. We were kind of interested in crumb rubber and its effect on the groundwater. And then after our March meeting, we did receive a letter from DCR. And then I threw myself into researching crumb rubber and its effects on groundwater along with Fred. I did find a really useful document from, it's called the Coastal Marine Resource Center Policy Projects Independent Group. And they came up with a list of recommendations for containing and managing crumb rubber. And Rich also was working with some consultants and came up with a large amount of supplemental information that I read through and found that everything he's proposing on site, maybe Rich could take over and show us all the changes he made to incorporate those recommendations.
Okay, yes, Rich Riccio from Field Engineering on behalf of NEFC. Yeah, we met back on March 9th, I believe was the last meeting. And we were still awaiting a file number, which since came through. First, I'll just go, DEP had a couple minor comments on the issuance of their file number. One was with regards to, said Basin 1 did not have 50-foot setback from wetlands. If you look at the screen where my cursor is,
Yep.
Basin 1 is the basin on the northwest side of the site, and we were able to massage the grading on this basin to pull that so it was completely 50 feet minimum from the wetland system. The second comment, which we had already had discussed with the commission, was with regards to test pits and soil logs. We do have soil logs on the plans, and we have a minimum of 5 feet of separation to groundwater beneath both detention basins. With regards to the comments, the recommendations from the document that Mia had recommended or just mentioned, construction-wise on the site itself, there's a number of considerations which we actually took into account during our design process. For example, one is locating storm drains where they will not receive any crumb rubber. I'm going to pull up my grading and drainage plan here, which is the most recent set of plans. The field is in this location here. We have the storm drains that we're proposing are basically collecting water from the parking area. What we have is on either side of the field, we have a crushed stone filter strip, which would serve to both intercept water before it gets onto the field, and any water that does get onto the field would flow through that before getting into the stormwater management system. That way, the crumb rubber would be caught up in the stone prior to, if it did leave the field, prior to getting any further. That's actually is one of the other comments from that table from the document that Mia talked about. It also just mentions that ensuring the field is level. The field is less than 0.5% slope across it. So it's a level surface, playing surface that we would, that's being proposed. So it would address that comment. One of the other comments was to curb or buffer the field to prevent stormwater from leaving the field. And that is, once again, the stone around on either side would intercept any of the stormwater running off the field. Therefore, it would eliminate the potential for the crumb rubber getting into the stormwater management system. There are also 3 suggested operational aspects with regards to handling the crumb. One was just to develop a plan for transporting and disposing of crumb rubber when the field is replaced or abandoned, and contain the crumb rubber if it's transported to a landfill, and periodically inspect the surrounding field for crumb rubber released from the site. Those would all be conditions, or could be included in the final operation and maintenance plan for both for the site as a whole, as well as the stormwater management system. Just to note, the study was done back in 2008. Since then, there have been a lot of improvements to the manufacturing of the crumb rubber itself, where it's basically an inert substance, but we have no problem incorporating all of these recommendations into the order of conditions.
Rich, the crumb
And that-
rubber that you're referring to is that's what when you walk on one of these turf fields, it ends up sticking to your cleats or your whatever. That's really, it's very, very small. I at one point in time was told it was rubber tires that were chopped up. Is that true?
It's little pellets. They're encapsulated. They're inert. They used to use recycled tires, but I believe it's a cleaner substance now. I know Scott from AstroTurf is on the line as well. He may be able to add a little bit more to where the crumb, what the crumb consists of.
Evening, everybody. The crumb rubber comes from old tires. It is clean sieve, and it comes in a 1020 sieve, which, as you were saying, is a very small granular size, but it's used across the country.
So me, all these BMPs that you found and so forth are going to be baked into the plan?
Yes.
Great,
They've all been included.
great. Okay. Anything else from Rich or company?
No, I think we basically, covered all the comments that had been previously addressed. It was really the DEP file number that we were waiting for, and then I know Mia had mentioned the comments from DCR, the letter that was sent to the commission. Basically, I think it was a day or two after our last meeting,
Right.
and we discussed the aspects of the crumb and the turf, and they also had a comment with regards to infiltration basin 2, which is down on the southern portion of the site, because on our original drawing we had the grading and even in this level spread of spillway basically right up against the property line with the aqueduct there. We were able to massage this back a little bit to give us some more space around the property line to address their concern there. Stormwater management calculations were reviewed, by your town engineer. We had no issues with the way that the stormwater management system was designed, even with those tweaks to the basins.
Cool, good, good. Any questions from the commissioners? I mean, these folks have been around for a while, so we're pretty knowledgeable what's going on.
Could I ask,
Nothing.
Rich, you said that you move things away from the property line for during construction, but also you can access the basin for regular maintenance without encroaching onto the DCR property?
Correct, yeah. And we have our 10-foot berm around the top of the basin, but there's also approximately a 5-foot strip between the property line and the Toa slope along the southern boundary of the basin there to give us enough room so we don't have to get onto the aqueduct's property.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Greg, last time we were looking for some stormwater test pits near the basins, and so it sounds like you guys did those. You've got your separation of groundwater now. Fred's reviewed drainage, and I guess he's okay with everything from a drainage perspective. I guess the only comment I have, and I guess it's, less of conservation, probably more of planning board, just regarding the access points to this. You have, I guess the one that I'm seeing on the left side of the plan, that's a one-way only. Is that the way it is? And then out the other side is in and out?
Yeah, we discussed this at length with both the design review committee and the planning board as well. The purpose of this, the left hand, if you recall, the original plan, we had an in and out on both sides.
Yep.
And there was a concern about people pulling out this close to the intersection with Bartlett Street.
Yep.
So we converted this to a in only that way, and then we are keeping this as an in and an out, just to get people off of Cedar Hill as quickly as we can in both areas. And then we pulled the exit as far away from the intersection with Bartlett as we could. Like I said, we did discuss that with planning, and they were pleased with the change and the configuration of the traffic circulation.
I think it's
basically
good.
anybody-
I like it. I certainly like it a lot better. I knew having that, that exit coming out of there so close to that intersection at Bartlett
Right.
is tricky because the trucks do fly around that corner. I guess to do this, and if you just go to a one-way in, it's hard for me to see the dimension there, but you could probably neck that down to 20 feet or, something a little narrower for that.
on the
entrance.
left-hand side.
On the left-hand side, just save a little bit of impervious area.
Yeah, we did. We did
Oh,
it.
is it
We
20
cut that
feet
down
now?
to 20 feet.
Okay,
Yeah, we have
perfect.
20 feet on the left and 24 on the right.
Okay, great.
I'm noticing, do I have to raise my hand?
So let's go ahead, Kelly, you're up.
No. I'm noticing the dumpster pad, and it looks like the majority of your snow storage is still within the buffer. Is that all right? Like you're
We
not
have,
using chemicals and de-icers and stuff, right?
No, there'll be no, I mean, there's no chemicals proposed, no de-icing, none of that. The dumpster would strictly mostly just be paper goods in there. No kind of chemicals or anything that would be in that.
Okay.
And it's actually, it's a concrete pad. It's pitched back towards the pavement, so it would get any runoff that did hit it would get captured within the stormwater management system.
All right.
For any kind of treatment if there was anything that was in the dumpster.
Anybody else? You good, Kelly? You good, Kelly? Anybody else? Let me see. Anybody in the audience have a comment or a question? I don't see any hands. Okay. So Mia, you're all set. You're pleased with everything that's happened. I mean, these folks have been pretty good to work with. We've been discussing this now for several months and made recommendations, requests. It seems like they've come up with the answer to each one of them.
Yes.
So then we can go ahead and close the hearing with there's no further action items, no further items that are due.
No, I have the revised plans and I have the operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater system. I can't get my hands on the operation and maintenance plan for the Crum Rubber Field. Do you have that, Rich? Because I'd like to append all the operation and maintenance plans right to the order.
Yeah, what I can supply that to you. If we're going to incorporate what was in this, the Coastal Marine Center information, I'll put a document together that incorporates those requests, recommended action items, and get it to you as soon as possible here this week.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then let's go ahead and close the hearing. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the hearing.
It was Tom
Second.
Beals made the motion, second from Diane.
Yeah,
We're voting. Diane Goldner,
yes,
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself votes yes. Hearing is now closed. So we need a motion to issue an order. Do we have any special conditions with the order, Mia?
I have a pre-construction meeting, the standard stormwater system boilerplate, and I'm going to append the operation and maintenance plan both for the stormwater system and the Crum Rubber Field.
What about it? You get a
That's-
SWIP with this one too, right, Mia?
Yep, I'll get that in there. We need their copy of their SWIP reports.
Kelly was talking about the dumpster being close to in the resource area. Do we need to be concerned about trash and so forth, maybe blowing into the wetlands? And if so, have it cleaned up on a regular basis?
I'll put that in there. I just drafted one for Bartlett Street because of the 301 Bartlett.
Yep.
We'll put that in there. Trash
Okay.
will be maintained and nothing will enter the wetland.
Okay, anything else? All right, we need to get a motion to issue an order of conditions.
I'll go with it. Motion
Done.
to issue an order of conditions for Cedar Hill Street with the conditions that Mia mentioned.
Second.
Second from Diane or Kelly? It was Kelly that time, right?
yes.
Okay, let's go with voting.
I'm sorry, 1 second. Justin, were you here at the March meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have you on my list for some reason. Then you're fine. Your motion should be.
We're good? Okay, we're gonna vote. Diane Goldner.
Yes,
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself votes yes. Unanimously carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. What is your timeline? When do you want to get moving?
I think Brian could speak to that briefly.
Brian's on mute.
Yeah,
There he is.
sorry.
Okay.
Well, we still need approval through the planning board, which there's an amendment coming, a bylaw change at the town meeting. Our timing is gonna be sometime the next year to start construction. We're still working on the timing as a result of COVID-19.
Okay, all right. Well, the order we're gonna give you is good for 3 years, right, Mia? So get that going for you. So that's good.
Thank you. We appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, I think we're good.
So you're ready for a motion to adjourn?
Oh, boy.
You're so silly.
I tried.
For the next one, we have, if you're ready to move on to Howard Street, we have Arthur Allen again, and I'd like to share my screen with the plan.
Yeah, sorry, I got rid of you, Arthur. Who else do we have for Howard Street? Just Arthur, yeah?
David Canny, he might be on here. Let me just want to see if he's one of our attendees.
I don't see a Dave Robinson. No.
Just Arthur then.
Okay. Arthur should be on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We
Yes.
can hear you and see you. Yes.
Am I ready to go?
We are ready for you to go. Yes, sir.
Do you have to give permission to share my screen, Greg? Or do I just hit share screen? I think I can. I think I can hit share
Give
screen.
it a try. It looks like it's working.
Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you again, Arthur Allen from Ecotech Tech Incorporated, wetland scientist and project representative. I delineated the wetlands on this site, which are basically just up in the kind of north and northeast corner of the site towards the top of the plan. There's a vegetated wetland associated with an unmapped intermittent stream. That comes down and enters a 12-inch RCP culvert that drains under a little cul-de-sac at the end of the existing common driveway, which we're proposing a driveway off of to access a new single-family house, well and septic system. With the exception of about the first 100 feet of the driveway coming off the common driveway, the whole project is outside of the 100-foot buffer. Just that first 100 feet where you see the proposed stabilized construction entrance and some grading associated with the new driveway. That's the only section that's within the buffer zone. So we had comments from DEP, which included adding some erosion controls on both sides of the proposed grading at the driveway and also across the cul-de-sac. And Mia, it actually appears that this plan was prior to revision. So that the plan you have up does not show the additional erosion controls, but I know you have the revised plan that was revised through April 3rd, 2020 that shows the additional erosion controls to address the DEP comments. So you can just reference those in the order if you get to that point. But basically, this is just a simple buffer zone project with a minimal amount of work in the buffer zone just to access the site with the driveway. And I will turn it over to the commission.
So Mia, we walked this the other day, right? You're muted, Mia.
Yes, we did.
Okay. I mean, there's not a lot of encroachment into the buffer here. Question we did have, Arthur, is what about the old driveway? What's going to happen to that old existing driveway to the right?
I mean, he's just abandoning that. The part of the problem is it's within an easement to another property on the undeveloped property on the back side of this, and he has no idea what's going to happen, if anything, back there. Obviously, that's mostly in the buffer zone, and they'd need to come to the commission if they were doing anything. But he's just abandoning that because it's in an easement, and you know, he really you know, wants to stay away from it.
Because there is that flow that goes down there with that. There's been a lot of work done. It was like almost like a dam put in there, or some facing that goes. The flow goes underneath the roadway over into the existing house yard.
Right, that stream was historically channelized into stone walls and directed under the common driveway. I guess at some point historically, when this was one large, you know, developed property, but yeah, so there's some history here. But then these properties were all cut up, and that existing driveway again was left in an easement to, to an undeveloped property on the other side.
So no plans to do anything, to do any cleanup or any work around that piece
No,
of,
he's just
the
staying
channel.
away from it. It's outside the limit of work that he's proposing, and
okay.
he's just not addressing it.
All right. Okay, and this is part of the old Silver property, I believe. Yeah,
Right.
that piece. Okay. Any questions from the commission? Any
Not for me.
questions? Not for you? Okay. You know me, the only problem we have with participants. Any questions from the audience? I don't see any. Okay. All right. So we are going to close take a vote to close the hearing. Lee, do you have any last comments before we do that?
No comments.
None? Okay. Need a motion to close the hearing for 343 Howard Street.
I move
Right.
that we
I'm sorry, I heard Tom and Diane, I think.
Yes. I move that we close the hearing on 343 Howard.
Okay, I think Tom
Second.
seconded it. We'll vote it. Diane,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Hearing is now closed. Mia, the order has nothing special, I think, correct? No other special
No.
conditions, and it's pretty straightforward, very little impact.
Yeah, just the standard boilerplate.
Okay. Motion to issue an order. We need one.
Okay, I'd make a motion to issue order conditions for 343 Howard Street with the plans as provided.
Second.
Seconded by Todd. We're voting. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself votes yes. Unanimously carried.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay.
Okay. So Mia, you've got to stop sharing your screen, I think. Here we go. All right. Moving right along. I would say we're ahead of schedule, but I want to jinx ourselves here. So we're just barely hanging on. Okay, so let's go to Harrington Lane. Craig Callahan. Let me see who's here.
Mark Arnold, he's the representative.
Okay, let's see. Mark Arnold. I saw his name. Mark's promoted.
Chairman.
Hey, Mark, we can see you and hear you.
Great.
Excellent. Tell us about Harrington Lane.
So Harrington Lane, this notice of intent is a refiling of an expired order of conditions for Harrington Lane. It was a subdivision off Washburn and Howard Street with a cul-de-sac coming off of Washburn Street and dead ending. It involved a slight wetland crossing, this impact to BBW and Bank. We had a wetland replication area that was already constructed. The roadway base is down. The basin has been excavated out, but has not been finalized. And the lots are currently partially under construction that are outside the buffer zone. And the order expired. We missed getting an extension, so we had to refile. So we have an active DEP file number to complete the project. So the wetland replication area was already constructed. It's been monitored for over 2 years. It's been completely successful. Vegetation has been over 75% for over a year now. Hydrology is excellent. The little stream inside it does have flow as proposed. And the erosion controls have been holding up. They probably do need to be refreshed before the start of work again on the roadway. But overall, it's been fairly stable. The basin's been functioning, at least temporarily during construction, but does need to be reshaped and finalized with the plantings as proposed. So that's the purpose of this notice, and I can show you the plans if the commission wants.
Yes, let's take a look.
So this is the full-size plan here showing Howard Street to your left, and then to the right here you have Washburn Street.
Mhm.
The cul-de-sac road that comes in. So this is already base coated all the way in. And then I'm going to zoom in to another sheet to show you the actual resource area work, or buffer zone work, I should say. So this is the zoom in, Washburn Street to your right. The roadway came in. We had a permanent impact of 375 square feet of BBW. We had 25 linear feet of bank impact here, and also 25 linear feet of bank impact down here. We built this 600 square foot BBW replication area here that also included 70 linear feet of bank interior to the BBW. That's been monitored for 2 years now and is established. The basin has been installed, including all the utilities. So all the catch basin structures are all in, going through in different ways, including all the way up to Washburn Street. And the shoulders are vegetated with weedy vegetation that kind of is naturally established there. The project was halted slightly just due to a conflict between the previous contractor and the owner, which had to go to court. That's been resolved. So the Craig Callahan, who's the original owner of the property, wants to get the project finalized and wants to have a valid order of conditions so he can complete work under a DEP number.
Okay, good. Good.
Good. It would be great to get that done.
Agreed.
Yeah. You know, me and I were out there on last week at some point in time, and we met with Mr. Callahan, and one of the questions that we asked him, and I think folks that are on the commission back can remember this very well, but there was quite a lot of concern from some residents that lived on Washburn, I think it was, about flooding, and they brought in pictures of people in canoes going back and forth there during high water points. And we asked Mr. Callahan if he had any response from them, and it was all very positive. You know, the problems have not gotten any worse; they've gotten better. So it's drier than it was, and it seems like a win-win all along on that one. So that's good news on that.
Good.
So those folks were very concerned, if you remember, and they had reasons to be. So. All right, so we just can't renew this order, eh? We have to have a new one.
No, it is expired. And we did receive some DEP comments. And Mark, could you go through those?
Yep. So DEP did issue a few comments. The first comment was about the order of conditions, the narrative. There might have been a typo in the narrative about the original impact. So this project was originally proposed to impact more BBW and more bank. And then part of the planning board revisions was to make the road narrower and allow it to lessen wetland impacts. So that's what the order actually does. And that's what these plans actually show, which is they show the order which said 375 of BBW and then 50, which is 25 and 25 together, of bank impact with 600 square feet of BBW replication with 70 linear feet of stream. There was 95 square feet of temporary impacts as well. So that was the narrative question with regards to the order. So the replication again was replicated. I can pull up the last report that we completed this spring, or was it last fall? I'm trying to remember if I have the spring's report done. But I have last fall's report, which was, we built it over a year and a half ago. The second comment was regards to existing stormwater basin, which was noted from aerial photography as having standing water. That's possible because the basin hasn't been brought to final grade and cleaned out and planted. So that's something that would be under the inspection of the professional engineer, which would be Vito Colon with Cornerstone Engineering. And I know he's been involved with the construction of this project and monitoring some of the engineering. And he would be involved with completing that monitoring to make sure that that basin actually is functioning, and that would be part of the COC. Request would be his confirmation that the basin is functioning as required and draining within 72 hours of a rain event. The last comment was about the 401 water quality cert, which was the deed restriction on the property. I do know we had that conversation with Craig. I just don't recall if we completed the work or he had someone else do it. I haven't been able to confirm whether that's been recorded or not, but that's something that I know we did have that conversation with Craig, and he was, I know that was going to be worked on. I just don't have the page number if it's been recorded or not. So that's something we do have intended to file. I'm just not sure if it's been filed or not. But I know we did discuss this when we received the order of conditions and communicated that to Craig, that you can file a deed restriction and you don't require 401 water quality cert. So that was that was in regards to that. So those were the questions that were raised by Judy Schmitz from DEP.
Okay. Yeah, how does that last item affect our ability to issue an order?
It's fine. We can make it another condition that they record the deed restriction. It's fine. We can just echo it on our order. I just wanted to confirm, Mark, you said there was a typo. So we're going to be using the numbers from the old order, which is 375 square feet of BVW and 50 feet of bank, with a replacement of 600 square feet of BVW and 70 feet of bank.
Correct, and that's as reflected on the approved site plans, which were from September 6th of 2016. So those plans, which were listed on the order, show all those wetland impacts and the restoration area on it for permanent disturbance. So those numbers were correct as based on the plan. So the narrative in the NOI it might have been unclear that those were the old impacts that were reduced. Because that was the original notice of intent was filed with larger wetland impacts, and then we revised the plans and shrunk the wetland impacts to get approval.
Okay. Okay.
I guess just a quick one for Greg and Mia. You guys, you mentioned you were out there last week. Do the erosion controls still look good, or do they need to refresh those before starting construction again?
I think they could use a little refreshing.
This might be something I guess we probably want to add. If we're going to issue a new order, I think we want at least, if construction's been stopped for a while, if they still need to clean out the basin and get it mucked out and kind of put the final grades on that. I mean, there's still a good amount of site work, it seems like, to do. So at least get the erosion controls freshened up.
Yep.
The straw usually doesn't last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's probably due to be replaced.
Yeah, it does need to be replaced. I didn't notice any erosion around the replication area and around the basin when I was on site last, but again, I think it does need to be replaced.
Perfect.
This plan shows an erosion control barrier between the mitigation area and the wetlands. That's been removed because the mitigation area is fully functioning. So just
I think that should be fine. I guess just areas where they'll be doing some site work up gradient of, if they need to do final grading and loaming and seeding and different things, then those areas. But yeah, no, understand that between the mitigation area and the wetland, that should just stay as is if that's constructed.
Makes sense.
Any more comments from the commission? Let me check. Any attendees have any questions or comments? I'm doing a view here. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Let's have a motion to close the hearing.
Move to close the hearing.
Motion by Todd, seconded by Kelly. We're voting. Diane,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston. Kelly Marston's on mute.
Yes.
And myself, yes. The hearing is now closed. Kelly, I think I'm glad you're on mute for that reaction, I think, maybe, right? Okay, so hearing is closed. Mia, special conditions we're going to have?
So far I
Tightening up
have
Go
the
ahead.
recorded on the deed recording, the mention of the wetland resource areas. That it's kind of a note to myself to use the old numbers, that I'll have the old numbers from the old order, and that the erosion controls are installed. So it'll be our standard,
Yep.
erosion control installation.
Yep, okay, good. We need a motion to issue.
So I would move to issue an order of conditions for Harrington Lane, subject to the conditions that Mia just identified.
And one more is that the stormwater operation and maintenance plan will be appended.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Diane.
Yes.
We're going to vote it. Diane,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Okay. Good deal.
Hey, I just have a quick comment. I believe that was under the old setbacks, correct? So we're gonna just go with the original drawings
Yeah.
because of the old setbacks.
Yes.
Grandfather it in, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Mark, you done for us for tonight?
I am done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. 0 and 301 Bartlett Street.
Okay, you're looking for David Robinson, Dan Wells, and Israel Lopez.
David Robinson, Dan Wells, Israel Lopez. Done. I see David. There's Dan Wells.
Evening.
And we are Dan. And there's Israel Lopez. All right.
So if it's all right, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, let's do that. We've been running this for, we've had this agenda for a while too, Mia, haven't we?
Yes,
All right.
they've done a lot of work.
I think they have. I think
One
they have.
second. There we go. All right. So can everyone see the color plan there?
Yep, yep. And Dave, can you identify yourself when you get a chance, please?
Yep. 1 second. Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Mr. Chairman, thank you for accommodating us remotely this evening. For the record, my name is David Robinson. I'm the site designer with Allen and Major Associates. I'm here this evening with the applicant Israel Lopez and Dan Wells with Goddard Consulting, who's our environmental subconsultant. We're continuing our conservation hearing from all the way back on March 9th for the Parcel H project located at 301 Bartlett, or 0 and 301 Bartlett Street. I'll just briefly kind of summarize what we've accomplished, as Mia alluded to there, since the March hearing. Since that time, we've coordinated with Mia to work through some of the outstanding items, including submitting a base flood elevation study, which was approved. We also submitted some updated plans, particularly with some drainage requests from the commission, and an updated drainage report, as well as an updated wildlife habitat evaluation and mitigation plan prepared by Goddard Consulting. And in this time, we've also received a draft order of conditions. As I mentioned, we submitted the base flood elevation study report, which was prepared by our subconsultant, Langen Engineering. Staff has reviewed and approved it, And as we expected, the base flood elevation on the project side of the site for the Steerat Brook is approximately 30 feet below the proposed first floor elevation. So the floodplain is significantly below our proposed project and really shouldn't affect the project in any way. It's down a very steep slope at the back of the site. One other outstanding item you might recall from the March hearings is related to drainage, and more specifically, staff had made a comment mentioning, ensuring that we were maintaining existing runoff patterns to the wetlands at the front of the site. If I can get my cursor over here, right in this area, this kind of long finger that comes down, because if you recall, we have a basin in the back here which discharges up to the northeast, and we also have a small basin here which discharges to the northwest side. So we just wanted to take a look at and make sure that we're maintaining the existing drainage patterns to this wetland finger up front. And what we found is that we indeed do. So what we did is when we updated the drainage report, we put a third study point right in this area to see what's going there and making sure that we're maintaining those patterns. And that study point is known as study point 3. For study point 3, under existing conditions, we have 2.2 CFS heading there. And under proposed conditions, we have 2.1%. So 98% of the flow under existing is still heading to that wetlands under proposed. And then for study point 2, which is up by the large basin up in this area, we also looked at what was up going to study point 2 as well. And we found that under existing conditions, 1.47 CFS was heading there. And under proposed conditions, we had 1.39 CFS. So that means that 95% of what's directed to SB2 and existing is also being directed to there under proposed. And what I discovered is that the reason why is because we have some what are known as hydrologic soil group B soils that really run all along the edge of this wetland. Group B soil, most of the site is A soils, which are better infiltrating. Group B soils have a higher potential to generate runoff. And also as these B soils follow the wetland, they have a shorter time of concentration, which means that more water is going to head there. So if, a drop of water fell in the plateau up here with those infiltrative soils and long times of concentration, it's not necessarily going to make it down to here. So as I mentioned, over 90% or 95% of what's going under existing is also heading there under proposed. And we did also do a test pit in the area of flag 145 right here, which confirmed those B soils. There's a little bit more loamy soil with a higher water table, which confirms what we found on the NRCS website. In addition to this, we also proposed 2 other items to help with the drainage and the request from Concom. And one is we converted a catch basin right here in the access drive to a water quality unit with a graded inlet to provide treatment before discharge to the wetlands. Right here, flag 145 is the highest point of this whole wetland area. So we're discharging just upstream of that, some area from the access drive through a water quality unit to help maintain this highest elevation wetland, which is, the water obviously cools up. We just wanted to make sure we're still maintaining, wetlands in that area under proposed conditions. In addition to that, we also are proposing a riprap swale at the outlet of near SP2 at the northeast corner of the site, and I'll show you that on the grading and drainage plan. But basically, it's a 60-foot long, 6-foot wide riprap swale, which is going to take discharges from the outlet control structure of the large basin. And that's going to help to dissipate runoff velocity and also evenly distribute larger storms to the wetlands up there, which would minimize or reduce the potential for scouring and erosion and protect the resources on site. Additionally, the basins are designed, there's some good sandy infiltrative material there, and a large component of the basins is dedicated to infiltrating to groundwater, which will also help feed the wetlands. So as I mentioned before, we did also receive a draft order of conditions for this project, We're hoping to discuss that a little bit further with you and close out any outstanding items tonight. And we also submitted a revised wetland wildlife habitat evaluation and habitat restoration plan prepared by Goddard Consultants. And at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Dan Wells to discuss that study further.
Okay, could I share my screen? Might be helpful.
Yep. I stopped sharing, so you should be able to.
Okay. All right, again, my name is Dan Wells from Goddard Consulting. And so I conducted a wildlife habitat evaluation of the property, and what you have on the screen is it's a general habitat map. The areas in yellow are a rough outline of the portion of the riverfront that's going to be altered. That the total riverfront alteration is about 38,000 square feet. There's 3 major habitat types that I observed. So the most predominant one is this scrub shrub habitat. There's also a successional forest, and there's also an area of white pine forest. You can clearly see that on this aerial photo. And
I'm sorry, Dan, can the commissioners see? I'm not seeing
I
the
cannot
plan.
see anything, no.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, nothing's up.
okay. Still the same? You're not seeing anything?
Same.
No.
Okay. Yeah, something's not working. So
I can pull any plan up. Which one is it, Dan?
okay, it's the wildlife habitat evaluation.
Okay.
Page 2.
All right, let me get that up. The habit from the evaluation or from the habitat restoration plan?
The actual evaluation itself.
Okay. So page 2 of the evaluation.
Yeah, exactly. There's a aerial photo showing the different habitat types.
Okay.
Here we
Can you
go.
see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Is
perfect.
it this?
Yeah.
Is
So
this the
scroll
correct
down.
document?
Yep, that's it. Exactly. Yep, keep going down to the narrative part. Okay, there you go. Now, there you go. That's, if you can zoom in on that aerial photo. Okay, so as I was describing, there's the 3 major habitat types: the scrub shrub, the successional forest, and white pine forest. So because the riverfront is mostly, it's an upland resource, it's unlikely that any significant habitat features like, beaver lodges and nests of aquatic species are going to be present. There weren't any, really large dead trees that have large cavities. Those are typically important features. So there wasn't a lot of unique or uncommon habitat features present in this habitat area. What was unique and valuable, in my opinion, was part of that scrub shrub habitat had a lot of berry producing shrubs, particularly the high bush blackberry. There's quite a bit of invasives mixed in, multiflora rose, bittersweet, honeysuckle, but that is a native species with a lot of value because of its fruit. So the total amount of that type of habitat that's going to be altered is about just shy of 20,000 square feet. And so, in my opinion, some mitigation was warranted for this project to kind of offset the loss of the habitat produce the habitat function of those berry producing shrubs. It also provides a lot of cover for small mammals. So I guess, Mia, if you could open the habitat restoration plan.
Sure.
And scroll down. Yeah, up a little bit above that. Okay. Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah, if you can zoom in a little bit, this shows an overview where we're proposing this restoration area. So it's to the immediate north of the building. And if you go down to the next one, it kind of zooms in. You can see it's about 29,000 square feet, and it extends from, so the limit of work is that black dashed line. This restoration is going to take place in the inner riparian zone all the way up to the edge of the river. If you go down the next page, Mia. So yeah, and zoom in on that. So I'll kind of walk you through the reasoning for choosing this area. So this, as you see labeled on this figure, so to the right, you see the blue line, that's Stirrup Brook as it flows from west to east, just to the north of this restoration area. And so it's very, to the left of this photo, it's a narrow channel through a forested wetland. And then as it enters this photo on the left, it's a very wide shrub swamp, but it's very dense. There's no real open pockets of water. And then where the blue arrow ends, just to the north of the restoration area, that's where it opens up into a real open water habitat with deep marsh. And so that area, it's the most likely to be used by ducks, geese, things like that. When I was out there in the spring, there were pickerel frogs calling. And so a big part of why I selected this area is it kind of provides a buffer, physical buffer between the building and this real critical wildlife habitat feature of the open marsh. And so, and if you scroll down to the next page, Mia, there's some photos of the existing habitat. So that's what the open marsh looks like from just on the edge there. So you can see there's clearly good habitat for ducks, turtles, waterfowl. And so if you go down to the next page, Mia, this shows what the habitat is like in the actual area to be restored. And so all that green, light green vegetation, that's multiflora rose, bittersweet, and honeysuckle, and some glossy buckthorn. So, but another favorable reason for choosing this area is because, as you can see, that's not, the size and scope of those invasives is not 100% cover. It's manageable, in my opinion. Whereas some parts of the site, it's, over 6 feet tall, and it would just be a futile effort to try and manage it. But a lot of this you can actually even dig up by the roots and totally eliminate it. There are some native, you can see most of those trees growing in there are native red maples. There's some high bush blueberry and winterberry. So the approach is to try to dig up all those invasives as much by the roots as possible. If that isn't successful in the first season, then we put in, treatment with herbicide. But just by removing those invasives, a lot of the native ground cover is going to spring back to life. And we're also proposing to supplement that removal with plantings, 48 native shrubs, high bush blueberries and winterberries, and then 60 native ferns. So, and that, because as you can see, it's not just a clear-cut area. That those new plantings are going to be randomly interspersed among the existing red maples and the good things that we want to keep there. So it's not a matter of going in and just chopping down everything. It's very selective, very carefully monitored. You can also see there's some large woody debris on the ground. We're certainly going to keep those, and part of the plan from the mitigation is also incorporating about a dozen of there's some large woody debris from the area that's going to be cleared in the riverfront. So we're going to transport about a dozen of those large dead logs and some of the newly cut big tooth aspens and spread those randomly throughout this area. So it's a pretty substantial plan. It's 1.5 times the amount of the shrub habitat that's being altered. And there's no riverfront regulation that requires this. So it's, I feel it's a very good offer for mitigation. It replicates the habitat function of that brushy habitat type. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions.
This replication is designed to cover the area where we're losing the blackberry the blackberry plants, correct?
That's correct. Yes, the white pine forest and those successional forests, there wasn't any unique habitat value to those. So it wasn't intended, and the regulations don't require, restoring the entire riverfront. The wildlife habitat manual is there's no threshold for riverfront. And part of the reason this was triggered is because it's in a mapped area of significance, part of the CAPS program, significant ecological. It's not well, on top of that, it's also in the mapped natural heritage polygon for endangered species. So that's another reason this got extra special attention. But I can address the rare species. That's been handled, and Natural Heritage has issued the conservation management permit. To my knowledge, the blue spotted salamander habitat is on the north side of Stirrup Brook, so there's no breeding habitat anywhere within their migratory range. This project itself, but certainly enhancing this for those few blue spots that can get across the brook. This enhancement area is going to be designed to provide cover for them, overwintering habitat.
Interesting. I guess my question really is we're losing a lot of blackberry bushes, which seem to be a feed to various birds and animals, but we're not replacing with a similar food source.
Part of it is because it requires much sunnier conditions.
Okay.
To do it. So that's why I selected, I want to keep these red maples in place. So it's going to be a lower light condition. So, and matching what's out there in that area already, the winterberry and highbush blueberry. So it's not a exact replacement of that species, but also keep in mind a lot of the riverfront that's not going to be altered, especially to the northwest, there's going to be a considerable amount of that blackberry habitat left and untouched. So it's not like it's going to be eliminated from the site. And there's, just the whole general vicinity has a tremendous amount of that habitat type. So I think this is, what's best for this restoration is, and it's also a little bit more diversity. Those two other species have value to other species.
Okay. All right. Mia, you're satisfied. I know there's been a lot of dialogue between yourself, staff, and these folks. You're pleased with where we are here?
Yes, I think this is a much more robust plan.
Okay. Any questions from the commission or comments?
I have a question.
Kelly.
Hi, I have a question. I was just wondering, of the areas that we could restore, and maybe this has been answered and I didn't hear it. I heard you say that it looks like this area, in comparison to other areas, is doing relatively well. It's not completely overcome by invasives. So I'm wondering why we chose this area that's doing well to tear it up, as opposed to tackling an area that's not doing well. I heard, 6 feet of invasives. I feel like that would be, isn't that something we would rather clean up? Something that's worse?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I understand your point, your question, but I wouldn't say it's doing well. I think it's doing less bad. So there's certainly the invasives are there. And my reasoning is well, as I explained, part of it, it's right next to that where it becomes a deep marsh habitat, but also the probability of success is much greater in this area. In those other areas, you'd have to bring in heavy equipment and just annihilate every standing piece of vegetation, dead and not, and then follow that up with multiple treatments of herbicides. So it's not about trying to skimp on effort. It's trying to maximize success of something that's going to be beneficial in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. I'm just curious, what about the longer term maintenance for this area? Is that in the O&M of the site, or is this one and done?
there's a 2-year monitoring proposal for this, so 2 growing seasons after the initial treatment. So
Okay.
with, I would monitor it, write reports, any deficiencies would be addressed, and the expectation that after that second growing season, there's a high % cover of natives and virtually no invasives remaining.
You good, Tom?
Yep.
Any other commissioners have a question or comment here?
Looks good.
Diane, do you?
No, no,
Okay.
I'm fine.
We've got a hand up. Let me see, there's going to be a 1508655. Press allow to talk. Done.
I am unmuted.
You are unmuted. Can you please identify yourself?
Yes, good evening. This is Lisa Maselli from 13 Maple Street.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. You've got a question.
I do. I have seen these plans. Actually, I've been on the design review board as well. And I'm quite concerned about the whole project. I've expressed that often. And I did take a walk down there last week and noticed that there were some beaver chewings on one of the 2 or 3 of the trees. And I hear things like herbicides that's going to be used. And I find it hard to believe that we really need this building here to go through all of this moving, the habitat and giving us something else to eat later on down the way when you're going to have all these other things coming into their area. The building itself, with its driveways and such, having trucks or whatever they are going to bring back and forth, the oil and gas and everything from the trucks are going to run off into the wetlands at some point. I don't understand why it's so necessary to have this building, to give so many permits and go through so much work when we don't need it.
Well, I can answer a piece of that, Lisa, is that, our jurisdiction here is really compliance with Wetlands Protection Acts. And
okay.
We've been working with this group for quite a while. A lot of items you raised have been addressed, and I'm sure that the folks on the phone can speak to some detail around oil and gas management on impervious surface, wildlife in the area, and so forth. So we can talk about those specifics within our jurisdiction. The overall need of the building and so forth, that's really more in the planning area, I think.
Okay.
But let's start where we are. I mean, Mia, do you want to talk a little bit about what's been done in terms of managing on-site fluids and the fact that there's some beavers in the area?
I think Dave Robinson can address the fluids. I mean, they went through groundwater and pavement, and then maybe Dan could, beavers are not protected. They're not in our jurisdiction. They're actually a nuisance animal, and they're abundant in Northborough. But there is protected wildlife, and Dan could address the measures they took with NHESP to go through that, which was a very lengthy process. So do we want to start with Dave? You can address fluids.
Yep, sure. So basically, we're proposing these 2 surface basins. Maybe I can share my screen again. Actually, this will be quick. So basically, we're proposing 2 surface basins, and prior to discharge to those basins, we have actually 3 on site, what are known as water quality units. These are units which are special catch basins, basically, or special drain manholes, which have internal components which are aimed at reducing, mitigating, or eliminating discharge of hydrocarbons as well as sediment to the basins. The basins fill up with water, which has been treated by these water quality units. It reaches a certain height and it discharges through an outlet control structure to an area in the wetland. So before any drop of water which touches an impervious surface which needs to be treated, which is basically all of the access drives, truck loading areas, and standard parking areas, they first need to go through a water quality unit which has been sized appropriately in accordance with the Mass Stormwater Wetlands. And these are cleaned out about twice a year a large truck comes on site and uses a vacuum to clean out those hydrocarbons which float on top of the water, as well as the sediment which accumulates in the base bottom of them. So the water that actually discharges is pretty clean once it's gone through these units. And then I'll let Dan maybe finish up on the additional components of that question.
All right, well, just one more little question for you then. Is this, any of this run electrically, or is this just by, can't think of the word. It's just a natural way where it fills up and goes through those processes, or is there something that is electric that creates like an ejection pump?
No, luckily we don't have to use stormwater pumps on this project. They're extremely costly. And on this project, because of the topography on site and because of our careful site design, we've designed all of the drains to operate under gravity. There's no electric components at all.
Okay, yeah, that's a word I couldn't remember. Gravity. Okay.
Gravity feed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Lisa, does that answer something? Was that part of your question anyway?
It certainly does. It does. And I appreciate the time. Like I said, I will take it up to the next level next. But
yeah, no worries. No worries.
Very thorough, and I know you're all doing a great job.
So we'll give it a try. We do care. So thank you, Lisa. I've got Carrie Martinick would like to come on and talk.
I'm sorry. Did we want Dan to address the wildlife question?
Oh yes, that's a good
okay. Sure,
idea.
That's fine. Go, Dan.
Okay, so you had mentioned presence of beaver. I think Mia mentioned that that's not really under the jurisdiction of, or basically this project is not likely to have any impact on beavers because of the distance, the setback from the river and the wetland. But in terms of endangered species, I wasn't directly involved with the applicant in negotiating this with Natural Heritage, but I know there's a considerable amount of land was put in a conservation restriction surrounding this project, and that, so that's permanently protected. So that was done with, in consultation under a permit from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, which regulates the endangered species. So that was I'm sure a lot of back and forth went into that, making sure there was sufficient land, protected to ensure the long-term viability of the endangered species present here.
Yes.
Dan,
yes, I'm aware of how much it was. My thought on that was, I hope they understand that they have to travel and they're being gentrified to another area. So that was change.
If I could just quickly follow up on the conservation restriction that Dan was mentioning. So we are providing 13.2 acres. We've already gotten it's an amended permit called a conservation and management permit. It's issued by the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, part of the Division of Fish and Wildlife. So there's 13.2 acres that we're devoting to remain perpetually as open space, which borders this project. And additionally, that 13.2 proposed acres of conservation restriction area in combination with the conservation restrictions created for the Hayes G project at 150 Hayes Memorial Drive and the 301 Bartlett project collectively provide over 40 acres in this area, which are all contiguous. So they're touching, and they provide a very nice wildlife natural corridor kind of through the heart of these three projects. So I will say that is one thing that's come out of this.
Okay. Have they had any research done on how this other warehouse has affected the wildlife that was there?
Which other warehouse?
The one that the added land, Hayes, was it Hayes?
Hayes G. That one was recently completed. The construction was recently just completed this summer. So that's a pretty new finished project. I don't know if it's been the opportunity afforded to look at any long-term studies at this time.
Oh. Okay, that's something to consider. All right, thank you.
Super, thanks, Lisa.
Greg, I do think NHESP did evaluate the impacts of 301 and Hayes G when they went to issue this new conservation permit. They did visit the site again. And, you know, it's adjacent. So they were out there. They did visit the area.
Okay. Good, good. Carrie Martinic. Where'd you go?
On here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yes, yes. You dropped off my screen here. Get you. Okay,
Oh,
there
sorry
you
about
are.
that.
Nope, I was looking at the wrong tab. You're good.
No problem. So this is Carrie Martinick. I'm at 16 Hemlock Drive. I'm also a member of the planning board, and I had some questions. I hope you don't mind me asking. Kathy suggested that I should attend the hearing and ask any questions, just so that it's in a public forum. My questions are, you know, there's not a week that goes by where I don't hear from a resident, you know, reaching out to express concern over the warehouses on Bartlett, wondering about the impacts on wildlife with either the lighting or hours of operation or the noise. So a lot of those things are conditions that the planning board deals with. On the flip side, you know, a lot of times we close our site plans, our hearing closes before you guys meet or close your hearing. So we're always off by a measure, by a beat, in which I don't have the ability to really understand what conditions are appropriate or that you recommend. So first I was just curious, the last memo I have is from February 19th that recommended some different lighting. And I was just curious if since that time, are there other conditions that the planning board should consider as part of this project that's come about since then, or anything that we've learned, any lessons we've learned from the other warehouses that we wish we did differently? Or I guess just looking for a little guidance there if you don't mind.
Well, from a planning perspective, I mean, the lighting was certainly one that was brought up on this item, and we discussed, and Mia can talk a little bit about what she's done in that area. The other warehouses that were built here, most of the learnings were ours. You know, we learned one of the first warehouses went up near FedEx. The site was cleared pretty quickly, and there was some significant runoff impacts we had into the wetlands. So that was sort of, you know, we learned something from that for subsequent sites. Stormwater management, we picked up some of those, but I can't think of anything that would be into the planning purveyance other than lighting under this one. Unless other commissioners have a different thought than I do, please jump in. And Mia, maybe you could talk a little bit to the lighting piece. I know that we had that discussion back a while ago and you did some research on that.
We did. You brought it up at the first meeting they came to was lighting. And so we delved into dark sky principles, and I contacted the wildlife biologist from an HESP. And he said, as far as his jurisdiction was just the salamanders, and the salamanders wouldn't be affected. But we did discuss, you know, butterflies, birds, any nocturnal animals. And he, the wildlife biologist at NHESP said, as long as they can employ dark sky principles. So I worked with David Robinson. They had, you know, come to the meeting already with a full photometrics plan and some of the dark sky principles implemented already. And I know I don't know if Dave, if you want to talk more about, give a summary of the dark sky principles that you've implemented. I think it's as many as they possibly can on the site.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were kind of thinking about discussing the lighting more with planning, but just real quick, you know, basically, the lights that we've selected are an OSQ series by a manufacturer, Cree. They are the same ones that were approved and installed at the Hayes G project. They are dark sky friendly, which means that they're certified as minimizing glare while reducing light trespass and sky glow. All products approved in the dark sky program are required to be fully shielded and to minimize the amount of blue light in the nighttime environment. And then additionally, you know, we have a engineer at Allen and Major Associates who's our go-to photometrics engineer. He's very good at this. I told him what the zoning bylaws are, and I told him we needed dark sky compliant lights. And we chose this Cree OSQ series for both. And also additionally, this series has a good, they have a lot of options that you can provide to tweak the lighting to you know, whether it's dimming or anything like that. So they are pretty versatile. But yeah, they're dark sky compliant. All of our photometrics plan complies with the zoning bylaws for the town, which also say that some minimum security lighting is needed on site. And that is pretty much our lighting approach for this project. Very similar to the other ones we've done.
Okay, super.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind if I just ask 2 more questions, is that okay?
As long as they're relevant to wetlands protection, certainly.
Yes. The other question I had was about conservation restrictions. I'm trying to do my own research and figure them out a little bit better. It sounded like that they could be amended or released at a future point of time. Is that something that we need to be concerned with, or is the conservation restriction forever?
Maybe Dan can help me out with this, but I believe what you're referring to is a declaration of restriction, a DR, which after 30 years, I believe, Dan, you would be eligible to change that. But we're proposing a CR, which is held in perpetuity. Perpetuity. Yeah, thank you. And there's specific signage that needs to be installed. Very similar to Hayes G. There's markers that need to be installed in the field. It's a plan that's recorded with Mass Land Records. But I think you're thinking of a DR, which is slightly different than a CR. A CR is much more airtight, and a DR can be revoked after 30 years. Is that your understanding as well, Dan?
Yeah, I'd just add that, the CR has to be approved by the State Executive Office of Energy, Environmental Affairs. And so overturning it would require an act of state legislature, I believe. So it doesn't get much more permanent than this, what's in place here.
Okay, through the chair, I was reading the handbook of conservation restrictions just to show you what a boring day I had. But so thanks for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
Oh, go ahead.
No, nope. I just said absolutely.
Through the chair, is that different than currently it's wetlands, so they can't really be built on anyway? Is there a specific advantage to the conservation restriction that makes it a better setup?
Well, maybe Todd can answer that one. You're pretty
Okay.
familiar with CRs, Todd, right?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So if it's wetland, through the chair, excuse me, if it's wetlands anyway, and really it shouldn't be built, have additional buildings, what value does a conservation restriction bring that's an additional value to that area? Does it, I really am not that educated on the matter, so I'm just looking for some insight there.
I mean, I suppose if your point is that because a large portion of what they're donating or what they're submitting to the CR couldn't be built on anyway, what's the point?
Right.
I suppose you might be right, but I guess I don't understand what distinction you would be making here or why it would matter. I mean, it's still a public good.
If I could add something, that with natural heritage, they require a certain percentage of the land to protect it has to be upland.
Upland.
Only, I believe 30% of your mitigation can be wetland. So it's not like all of those 13 acres are unbuildable. Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I understand the process.
Nope, that's exactly right. So basically for this CR to count, we have to replicate what we're disturbing in the NHESP area at a 1.5 ratio, and it has to be like for like. So if you disturb X square feet of forested upland, you must then replicate 1.5x square feet of that forested upland. So actually a very large chunk of this area is forested upland and not just wetlands. In fact, you get 0 credit for wetlands. You get 1-to-1 credit for forested upland within the same NHESP area that you're disturbing, and you get half credit for forested upland outside of the NHESP area. So a good chunk of the CR that we're donating is actually good developable forested upland land, which the applicant has, decided to deed into this conservation restriction, which, as Dan mentioned, is very difficult to reverse course on. So it's not just all, wetland land. We get zero credit for that, but we're more than happy to deed that wetland as well as forested upland into this CR.
Great, thanks for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That answered both your questions, Carrie?
It did, thanks very much.
Super, super. Thanks for bringing them up. Okay. Let me see here. So Mia, has the applicant pretty much met all of the requirements that were outstanding in terms of deliverables? It looks like they're pretty darn close if they haven't.
So at the last meeting, we requested a base flood elevation report, which they've
Yep.
done. We
Yep.
requested a more robust wildlife habitat restoration, which they've done. I requested additional drainage information to just make sure that the pre and post hydrology was being matched. That's been done. And then the fourth item was we just asked them to remove all references to hay, which is a very small thing.
Okay. Some of the notes I'm looking at here says that there are some revisions forthcoming.
I just got them over the weekend. And the only real revision in it was the swale that he talked about at the outlet,
Right.
but there's a lot of flow going there. And so I was looking for something more than just like an apron. So we kind of made it like, was it a 60-foot swale, David?
Yeah, it's 60 feet long, 6 feet wide, and it'll really help to just dissipate and distribute that water, dissipate the velocity and distribute that water pretty nicely to the wetlands at the north there.
Mm-hmm.
Good upgrade.
And then I did give them a draft of the order of conditions. I wasn't sure if you want to touch on that. I did notice when we were talking, that draft did not include any of the conditions we usually include for wildlife habitat restoration or wetland replication, which is, the 2 growing seasons, monitoring how things are going to be handled.
Right. Okay.
So I had to add, there's about 51 to about 14 additional conditions that usually go along with that.
So there's nothing else owed to you?
No.
Okay. I've got another request from the audience here. Hold on for a second. Amy, I'm going to promote you to panelist. And you should be there.
Okay, I guess I could turn on my video.
I can hear you and.
Yes, okay, hi.
Hi.
I just had a quick question. I did attend the other conservation meetings. And I do back to the lights. I know those were an important thing. And one of the things Mia had mentioned was you can do lights out, like at Smith Pond, it was lights out at 10. I was just wondering if that's something that the Conservation Commission would recommend for this application, or you don't think it's needed?
Well, Mia, I thought that the information you got around the impacts was minimal to the wildlife out there.
It is, and there's very little lighting on the rear of the building. It's just minimal security lighting. And are your hours of operation and the lighting going to be covered in the site plan approval?
Right. I just wanted to get your opinion, because you had talked about there could be lights out or hours of operation. And I just wanted to get the opinion of the Conservation Commission if they felt there should be lights out or hours of operation that will impact the wildlife.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there was a positive on that, Amy, on that one, given what we found in terms of the minimal lighting in the back of the building, what most the impact would be.
Okay.
So from I think our perspective, I think we're good.
How far, I don't have the drawings in front of me. How far is the edge of the building from the river? In the pictures that are up, it showed the marshy wet area.
Yep. I bet Dave Robinson knows the answer to that.
Yeah.
Oh,
we do have 100 100 linear feet of undisturbed inner riparian area. And then it's varying beyond that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's 100 feet in all areas.
Yeah.
So it's about 100 feet to the riverfront?
It's over 100 feet. The closest it gets is 101.
Okay, but on average, it's pretty close to the 100-foot buffer.
David could share his screen with the plan showing, oh, I am screen sharing. Let me see if I have a plan. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So this black line is the limit of work. Right.
That's the 100-foot buffer to the wetlands. And then the blue line at the rear is the 100-foot buffer to the riverfront, flagged riverfront.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so behind the blue line, I'm just trying to picture it with the pictures that we saw on the screen of actually the swampy area. So the swampy area would probably be right behind that blue line.
So the closest is over here where we have wetland, but it's not riverfront area.
But that area is all, I've walked that area, that's all forested upland. It really doesn't get swampy until you get to the very toe of the slope along there. So anything that's up on that slope is pretty dry. I mean, we've walked it a couple times, and it really only starts to get marshy once you get, past closer to the Stirrup Brook from those wetland flags.
In here.
Yeah, yeah, and even further in.
Okay, thanks. I was just trying to picture on this drawing, compare it to the pictures we saw that are like photographs. Okay.
Does that help,
Thanks.
Amy? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right. So Mia, if we are good there, we can move ahead. No more commission questions. We can move to close the hearing, number one.
So moved.
Is there a
Who's that,
second?
Todd?
Todd, motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second by Tom Beals.
Oh,
We'll
Tom,
vote to close
hang
the
on.
hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
we have a quorum.
I
for this
wasn't at
one.
that meeting.
Okay. Anybody else?
Second,
Second from
Diane.
Diane. Okay, and now we'll vote it. Tom, you are not voting, correct?
I guess so.
That's right. So
Diane.
closing was Todd and Diane.
Yes.
Thank you. And the
And we're
voting
voting-
members are Greg, Diane, Todd, and Kelly.
Okay. Diane,
Yes.
Todd, Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Hearing is
Just for the
now closed.
record, Greg, I'm recusing myself from this one.
That's right. Thank you,
Not
Justin.
that
You
I
did re-
just wasn't
Right.
there for the first one.
Yep, thank you. You did recuse yourself. Yes. So Mia, we can move ahead then with a vote on an order.
Mhm.
And there's a lot, sounds like there's a lot of special conditions here.
There's the trash. I added that similar to, what happened at Hayes G or 301. I'm adding a whole section on the operation and maintenance of the stormwater plan, as well as the stormwater, their operation and maintenance plan will be appended to the order.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's going to be a whole section, it's usually called our wetland replication section. It's going to be changed to wildlife restoration, wildlife habitat restoration. And that, we have some performance standards for that and about 14 different, it's our boilerplate for wetland replication.
Okay, so you've got all those
Science
captured.
site.
So I would make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 0 and 301 Bartlett Street, DEP 2471176, subject to the conditions that Mia just enumerated.
Second,
Seconded by Diane. Same for voting, Mia?
Yes.
Okay, Diane Goldner,
yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
You're muted.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and myself, Greg Young, yes.
Okay.
You good, Mia?
Yes.
Dave Robinson or Israel, what is your timeline to start doing anything there?
Not anytime soon.
Okay, you still got to get through planning, right?
Yes, we still have to go through planning. We have Earthworks Board.
Okay,
Yeah, and planning's towards the end of July.
okay, you've got a good ways to go then, okay.
Yep.
All
And
right.
one more thing I would ask is if Mia, if you could please provide the draft order of conditions updated with those wildlife habitat evaluation items in draft form to the applicant and myself for review prior to us going to the final order of conditions. We'd appreciate that since we haven't had a chance to lay eyes on those new conditions yet.
Sure. It's great. Nobody ever reads my orders.
Oh, we do, every single one.
I guess I just wondered too, guys, I mean, do they want the order issued with the still open boards going, just in case there's changes to, I don't know, I guess if you feel comfortable without changes that would, require an updated plan or anything to
They're
us?
usually just administrative, they,
Okay.
if anything's double or doesn't refer to this project, I don't know if it's you, David, or a lawyer, someone takes out anything that doesn't reference this project specifically.
I would be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just know sometimes other boards have changes that could change what we see on the site plan. So just want to make sure.
So I will say we did have one site plan review hearing. Usually some of the major comments will come out of that first hearing, and I don't think we really had anything very significant. Then we also did a site walk with some of the site plan members, and that went pretty well. So we have had one hearing already.
And just, I'm thinking that if there's anything significant came out of another board that they'd loop back to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess, I've seen it before where you could get, a reduction in parking, which could change drainage calcs, which could change the size of a basin, which could make
Yep.
them, if our order's already been issued and it refers to a set of plans, then it, you need to reissue it and everything. So just want to make sure.
Okay. All right. I think we're good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And Dave and company, and thanks for working with us. I know there's been a lot of give and take and discussions here, so.
Yeah, you guys have been great to work
Thank
with.
you.
I really
Everyone
appreciate
enjoyed
it.
Thank you.
Drop some people here. I think that's it. All right, just us. Okay, well, we're cranking along here at 8:30. I mean, we can pull out our second hidden agenda item we haven't even talked about yet. We go till 9 or 10 or so, right?
I hope not.
Oh, no, no.
So I think we can knock these out quick.
Yep,
The
yep.
certificates.
Certificates of compliance.
Yep. I visited all 4 sites. They're all stable. They're all built as approved. No issues. The only issue that was outstanding was 124 Howard Street. They built that wall and then we required them to put in some blueberry bushes.
Yep.
They did, and it's complete.
Good.
So there's really no issues at any of them. If anybody has any questions about any of the particular sites, I can answer them.
No, the Coleman House was a long time ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with the ones that I know. Anybody else have questions on those?
Nope, not for me.
All right.
Can we vote them all as once?
Yep, we'll just record it all 4 times. You don't have to roll call it 4 times. You can just say issue the certificates of compliance for these 4 properties.
Okay.
Then I will move to issue certificates of compliance for 124 Howard Street, 112 West Main Street, 51 Southwest Cutoff, and 370 Southwest Cutoff.
Second.
Kelly seconds. We're going to vote it. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
myself, yes.
Okay. Greg, on the violations, I know we have to get to disc golf. But there's one that I just need to discuss. They're closing tomorrow. They're trying to move. And
This is the one I already took care of.
106, but the lawyer did ask that the commission just bless it at the meeting. So do you mind if I just jump into it real quick?
I do not mind at all.
Okay, so 106 Brigham Street, it was reported to us that wetlands were altered. We visited the site. The homeowner had cleared some vegetation and brought in some dirt from his property. Didn't realize it was wetlands. We asked him to remove the small piles of dirt and replant. He did. It's about 75% grown in. They're trying to move, and the buyer's agent wants the commission to just acknowledge it's resolved. And I recommend it's resolved. Greg visit. I don't know if you visited at the resolution, but I do have photos if you want.
No, I was with you for the first, we've been talking about it and you're happy with it, so,
I think they're closing tomorrow.
yep. So what does he want us to do?
Just if you have any questions, or if you agree to consider it resolved. I never issued an enforcement order. I
Okay,
just issued a violation letter and he responded.
okay, fair enough. Does any commissioners have any questions or comments or concerns about this?
I don't know where they are.
I think everybody's good.
Okay.
Okay, does that suffice?
Yep, we can consider it resolved.
Okay, good. All right, violations. We have a couple of pages of them. Several of them are been resolved and so forth, but we should talk about disc golf.
Yes.
And we probably have to bring, I believe we have Steve DeKay is on.
Yep.
I'll bring Steve in there as a panelist.
Steve Dakey.
Dakey, sorry, my pronunciation is so great. And I don't think there's anybody else that wants to do that yet.
There will be some public comment. I see John Campbell. He's
Okay.
the chairman of the Open Space Committee and the CPC. He may want to comment. So
We know
wanna
John. Yes.
We'll want to take public comment.
Okay. Well, let's start then. You want to do the history, Mia? Want me to do the history? What do you want to do here?
Sure, I'll share my screen. I sent you all a memo. To summarize, can you see the memo okay?
Yep. I read the memo.
Okay, so March 11th, there was an excessive amount of trees cut. We issued a cease and desist for all cutting. On May 5th, I observed, I'd been walking about weekly at that point, maybe even less, like once every 2 weeks. May 5th, I found that the cease and desist was not being adhered to. And so we issued an enforcement order, contacted the police, and now we regularly patrol the area. We haven't witnessed any additional cutting until June 15th. I've been walking the site once or twice a week. So is Greg, so has the recreation director. The police are there 3 times a day. They check it every shift. I don't think they do the whole hill every shift, but they visit the site 3 times a day since May 5th. And on June 15th, prior to June 15th, I'd walked it the week before, and the forested hillside was growing back. The trees that had been removed that were alive were growing back. They had sprouts about 4 to 6 feet in the air. And so the forest was really coming back. On June 15th, it appears someone went through and with hedge clippers and cleared the entire course again, cut all those sprouts. And so now we have our fairways again. On June 22nd, I've been going back once or twice a week. I don't know if I just didn't observe it on the 15th or if someone went back again, but hole 2, and hole 2 is the beginning of those. You have 2 issues on site. You do have clearing within the 25-foot no-touch wetland buffer, which again happened on May 5th. That's why they got the enforcement order. It was a different buffer at that point. But hole 2 is what started this, was the excessive cutting. Hole 2 was starting to regrow and it's been re-cleared. So, you know, the cutting is a violation of the original determination, the cease and desist, the enforcement order, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Bylaw. And I just need to really reiterate that there is a deed on much of this land that you are required to enforce, and you're required to enforce that it's maintained in as natural state as possible, which means no campfires, no campsites, no camping, no horse trails. Everything must be passive. And so, you know, you really, it's on you guys to enforce that. And I think the original project as it was approved was a passive use, but I don't feel, I mean, you don't need my opinion. You go ahead and discuss.
My opinion is that there's no more disc golf. It's done. It was not done as presented to us, and you know, with the violations that have occurred and repeat violations, that it's not the right use for the property, and we just need to say that they're done and they're out.
Any other question or comments in the commission?
Greg, I'd like to know, the original couple that presented this to us, are they not in charge of this? Or have they left it?
You mean the original, the people who donated the land?
No, the two people that came to.
Oh, the sponsors, the sponsors.
Yes, yes.
Well, one sponsor is Kelly from Parks and Rec, right?
No, it's so the recreation department is going to be the project manager for the town side, the town staff. And recreation is currently furloughed, well, in the process of getting furloughed. And the project manager for disc golf is Steve Dakey. He is here. I don't know if you wanted to ask him a question, Diane.
Well, my question is he the one that's responsible for this being taken care of or set up? And did he not know all this cutting was going on?
Greg, can we? Okay.
Right. Hi, I'm Steve Dakey, 7 Forest Road, Northborough, one of the volunteers in the disc golf project. And I did address you folks about getting this project started. I'm here with Kelly Colleen. She's also a volunteer on the project. Once the enforcement order, the cease and desist, because they were cutting a whole tube in place, we didn't do any more cutting. The people that volunteered with us are, my direct knowledge, we don't have no idea who's doing this. We wish we did. We feel terrible. The words saying cancel this golf project are horrible for us to hear, but I completely understand. I just want you folks to know that it was nothing malicious on our part. We absolutely would not have defied you, and we feel terrible. I don't have much more to add than that. I can go through what we did do and what we didn't do, but I can tell you what we didn't do is defy you folks. And it's a horrible thing. I wish it turned out better.
I just want to say I'm Kelly Colleen. I'm also at 7 Forest Road in Northborough. I just want you to be aware that at any time when that cease and desist order came about, have Stephen and I ever cut or done anything wrong on that course. Nothing has been done on our part. And I am extremely distraught by it. We are sick over it, and we're disgusted over it as well. I cannot tell you the disgrace that we feel with this, because we thought it was going to be a wonderful project for this town, and we are just completely disgusted with it. And again, I'm completely sorry that this has happened. We're disgusted with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have to, we spoke to Steve a while back, and I talked to some other folks around. I know that Mia's talked to other people that are involved in disc golf, and from what I picked up is that in disc golf, there's a core group of real fervent disc golfers. They want to make things happen. They tend to volunteer, and maybe they go beyond what they're supposed to. And I wouldn't expect Steve to be on the premise 24/7 to manage things. So I think maybe what happened is that it just got out of hand. The concern I would have is that if it should move forward and get cleared up and so forth, it still could become out of hand. We still have trash issues and beer drinking issues and so forth and so on. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. I also thought it'd be a great asset for the town. But I think we need to make a decision tonight because there's money on the table here at CPC town meeting that we need to either say yes or no to. So,
Greg, may I add one more thing?
yes, sure.
And it sounds like you're gonna vote it out, and I understand that. But the second that one limb was cut in there, to not complete this project, it's heartbreaking. With the installation of the baskets, the course is there and it's complete. I just spoke with the chief of police today, and he was saying that there were some cameras installed at Mount Pisgah because you're having issues up there. I don't know where you'll go, but I'm hoping that there's something you can do so that all this work wasn't in vain and so that the town can benefit from the project. It's a wonderful sport to play. I know a lot of the seniors and the pickleball people are excited to try it. The kids at the high school, the AD said they were very interested in doing something. It seems like it's a very popular thing amongst the citizens that they'd like to do this. And I'm not trying to snowball you into doing something you don't want to do. I'm just saying it's there. It's all there. And the trees will come back in, the forest will come back in, and with some greater supervision, this could be a lovely thing to have in the town. And I'll leave you to your work.
I don't think it's the appropriate location. I questioned myself when I went forward with this, but originally, as it was proposed, there wasn't going to be any substantial cutting of lanes. And, you know, that's not the case. That's not what happened. And, you know, my feeling is that if somebody wants disc golf that bad, they're going to have to find another spot for it. It can't be on conservation land.
I completely understand that.
Any more questions or comments from the commission? I got a couple people from the audience I want to bring on.
So this is Todd. I guess I would say I'm also in favor of dumping the project. I feel badly that I think we have to do it, but I don't think that what's happening at Edmonds Hill is that different than what's happening on Pisgah, which is we can't control it. Even if we had good intentions for how this was going to be run, it's clear that other people were going to, go further than we were willing to go. And there's no way we're just not going to be able to keep on top of it. So I have to say I'm against it now too.
Okay. I'll just go alphabetically here. Ann, I'm going to bring in Ann Boyden and then John Campbell.
I guess while you're doing that, Greg, just to kind of echo what Tom and Todd are saying, I mean, I think just unfortunately based on, the type of land this is and what the restrictions are here for conservation, it's just, it's not something that, it's not like a golf course where we're going to have staff out there that's going to be able to maintain or keep eyes on things. And, we just don't know kind of what can happen in the future and kind of where things can go from here. So I think just, unfortunately, just based on the land, the type of land and kind of what it is and what our restrictions are on it, it just seems, unfortunate, certainly for the project, but it might not be the place for it.
This is Kelly again. Can I speak just about that comment, if you wouldn't mind?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so, we worked with a little bit with the Trails Committee and Bob Mahalik, and would it make a difference to you guys if it was under the direction of Trails Committee? That Trails would, look at it a little bit more deeper and maintain it and see what's going on up in the hills during the time of play?
So given how much abuse has happened up at Mount Pisgah on the trails there, where we already have theoretically supervisory control and a complete lack of it, I would say no.
Yeah, I agree.
Mia already said that the police are up there frequently. If we can't control it with police frequently being there, I don't think the Trails Committee is going to be able to manage it much more strictly than the police can.
Mhm.
Sadly, I played disc golf. I like it. I was for it, but this is it just feels like the kids are running the show at this point.
Somebody is, yeah. Ann Boyden,
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a resident of Northborough 10 Edmonds Way, and I just wanted to voice that a number of us on Edmonds Way who are directly adjacent to Hole 2 are really concerned about this project. Partly concerned because we weren't aware that it was happening until after the cease and desist orders were already in place. So that just, it also makes me concerned about how the same group of people are going to be held responsible for maintaining it and carting out the trash and that sort of thing if we are already having concerns at this point. So just wanted to speak for a group of neighbors on Edmonds Way who are concerned.
Yep, understand. And as you can hear, Ann, it's there's a lot of concern here, Ted, too.
Yep. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Campbell, 29 Spruce Hill Drive, Northborough, and also the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yes.
Good. I wanted to share my perspective and my impressions on this. For the record, the CPC is meeting tomorrow night to discuss this project and also settle our plans for town meeting. For perspective, I looked back at the original application and I wanted to read briefly from it, if you would allow.
Certainly, go.
Page 1 of the 2021 application for the Town of Northborough Community Preservation Committee needs a brief description of project, including any construction required. The paragraph that was provided reads in part, the course will be laid out over the existing trail system and played through existing lanes between the trees. No land clearing will be needed as disc golf is played in the forest. Furthermore, it reads, construction would include some vista trimming of small branches, clearing of hazards on pathways, logs and rocks, improvements of the tee areas, leveling and digging holes for the target installation. Briefly, the committee reviews applications every year, and we have a set of criteria that starts with the applicability of the project for funding, and this did qualify. And then we look heavily at community support, which the project was greatly supported with letters from conservation, recreation, the senior center, and the Trails Committee. Lastly, we look at urgency. What we mean by that is how necessary is it to fund the project this year in competition with funds for others that might be more urgent. And ironically, the project was the least urgent at our open hearing on January 9th. And so the applicant needed to wait until the end. And they brought a large group of supporters. And I recall being very impressed with the presentation and the enthusiasm. And while in another year, I think we would have passed over it because our funds were very lean. We had nearly expended the entire balance of our budgets, which was rare. But the project was voted by unanimous vote. So we had a lot of hope for it, as many others have expressed on your committee. I walked the area after getting notice of the March 11th cutting, and I saw it firsthand. At first, didn't notice as much until I went to certain holes and saw they had been cleared quite a bit, where you could drive a 3-wood as well as throw a disc. And so I was concerned. The further violations really concerned me. And so I heard what Steve said, and if it's valid, then I think you're responsible for the original cutting of 70 stumps greater than the 2-inch limit in your permit, which seemed unbelievable that you would go to that extent without permission. And if the other cuttings were not by you, then one has to conclude they were by unsupervised aficionados of disc golf, if not your immediate group, others who thought they were helping out. And maybe there were good intentions and thought there was a red stamp to go forward. What I was confused about was that in the open space application, it talks about a timeline after funding would come through. That would be typically July 1 in a normal year, and this year somewhat after that, after town meeting. So I didn't know that any work had been approved at all, for that matter. I just want to conclude by saying I was excited about it too, and I wouldn't be adverse to looking for a way to let it go forward under certain conditions. But right now, it's violated multiple laws and regulations, and furthermore, it's just a violation of trust that you gained from our committee, and kind of bad form if you're trying to form a partnership with the town. And then I started worrying, what would this mean about the behavior around the disc golf course that's set out around a senior center that's a quiet place, let's admit it. And finally, we just heard from an abutter who's also very concerned. So it raises a lot of concerns that probably should be studied more thoroughly. And I can't speak for the whole CPC as we're going to meet tomorrow. These are just my impressions. I think we've got to look hard at how this would be managed. And so it may be hard to do that in the limited time we have to approve things and before town meeting. So with that, I just wanted to make sure you had my perspective on it, really my impressions and disappointment in the applicants. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, John. Anybody else have questions or comments? Let me check the attendees. No hands are up. So Mir, I guess our options here, we've got, well, there's always three options, right? So we've got one option, which is do nothing, and not a very popular approach. Another option would be that we pull the plug on it. Or the third option would be we put some sort of year-long moratorium in and then revisit it in a year. In one sense, I'm with John in that I would like to see if there was some alternative we could do. It has, I still think, great potential, but there are some warning signs that are there now that what we mean biting off down the road, something we really can't control. We can get this, and this is not controllable. So I am of the mind personally that I think we should probably cease all activities and go forward from there. That's my personal opinion.
Still an issue with how to take care of the remaining brush that's all stacked up and some restoration.
Yep. There's also a matter of if we decide to pull the plug, is to get the equipment out of there so that nobody can go in there and play disc golf. So, I mean, what about the equipment getting out? I would think wouldn't be a problem, right? That's mostly, I believe, Steve's, and then he can get out of there.
Yeah, it's just buckets and signs.
What about, and nothing is sunk permanently, right? Nothing is in concrete or any of that. What about the brush that's already there?
I could get volunteers, the brush that's there, I asked them to leave it there because I planned it on re-slashing the 25-foot no disturb between hole 2 and the wetland resource area. So we just dragged that back in. Everything was regrowing really nicely before this June 15th cutting. So I don't recommend any planting.
Okay, just let the forest.
Raking out the tee boxes. As far as what would need to be done to remove the footprint would be remove the poles and buckets, remove the signage, break up the tees are pretty much just like a sort of an arrangement of logs. And then there's some logs arranged to guide people between the holes.
Okay. Do we even order in this one, order conditions?
No, it was a determination.
Okay.
So it's fine, it's closed, and the project as it was proposed was not supposed to alter any wetlands.
Right, right, okay.
Yeah, so there are the two issues: permission to stay on the property and restoration of the wetland buffer problems.
Okay. So Steve, I guess if we move ahead with ceasing this, you need to get equipment out of there. How fast can you do that?
Well, I got a pretty busy work week, but I'm sure I could get in there over the weekend and take down the buckets that are up there. That won't be a problem.
Okay, all right. And what about the restoration, Mia?
We just put out a call for trail committee volunteers and go up.
Okay. That'll work, I think.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. We should vote this. It's not a public hearing, right? Violation. I guess we need a motion, don't we?
I make a motion that we cease all forward progress on disc golf at the senior center.
So is that like a pause? So we want them to sort of stop and do a moratorium? Or are you
No.
thinking
Done.
that they no longer have permission to conduct the project on the property?
Correct. Done.
Second,
That was seconded by Todd.
sir.
Okay, let's vote it. Diane Guldner,
I vote that we should stop the project.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
Yes.
and I also will vote yes, we should stop the project. So, I guess that's that. So we will, the funding request is from Recreation, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not us, so.
So yeah, Recreation would have to withdraw the funding request from CPC.
And since there's no effort to support the funding with anymore, there you go. All right, all right.
And John Campbell, can I just send you an email summarizing the commission's discussions and vote tonight? Because he's meeting tomorrow night. CPC
Yes,
is
please.
meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Okay. All right, all right. Thank you, Steve, and sorry it didn't work out.
Sorry.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen and ladies. I appreciate it.
Bummer.
All right, so there. Okay. Other violations we have here, Mia. That was the one we wanted to get on to make sure we snuck it in, so.
All right. Want to just go down the list?
Yeah, we got pages of them.
All right. 84 Pleasant Street was reported by Kelly dumping in a wetland resource area. It's the people live kind of behind this wetland, and there's a path cut in. Neighbors are repeatedly dumping. They just bring their yard waste across. The owners said they have talked to neighbors and everyone denies doing it. This is I'm going to lump 145 Lincoln Street into this too. It's the same thing where you've got a wetland in the frontage along Lincoln Street and the people live behind the wetland. So neighbors are dumping. On 145 Lincoln Street, they've even installed no trespassing, no dumping signs, but it keeps happening. And so, you know, I always advise people for both 84 Pleasant and 145 Lincoln, the best thing to do is if they know who's doing it is to go knock on that neighbor's door, because it's going to ruin your neighborly relations if I knock on the door. And they said that they have talked to people and everyone denies it. So on both sites, I've gotten a list of abutters from the assessor's office and I'm trying to get a letter out. I've just been swamped. So
Landscapers.
Oh,
I
really?
watched them. I stood there. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's dragging a tarp across the street.
Get his name and phone number and I'll call him and I'll threaten him with enforcement and fines.
Yeah.
So if any of you see any dumping on either of these areas, and the letters are going to go out and they say, it's a nice letter just saying, this is happening, it's illegal, it's also going to flood your basement, here's where you can bring the brush, here's DPW's hours and brush days.
Good.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
One Lancaster, Tom witnessed some activity in the wetlands. There was some like play equipment and bridges. I visited the site and walked with them. They own a large wetland behind a stream as part of their property. They just put in like a 30-inch kind of boardwalk just to access it. They haven't cut any vegetation. And the play equipment is a swing hanging up in some trees, so it hasn't even disturbed the ground. It's really just so they can access the back. The kids just run across and play back there. And I talked to them about Wetlands Protection Act, how it's important not to remove vegetation, how we can see them from the road. And they were, you know, very compliant, and they agreed that the boardwalks will be pulled up in the winter and before any heavy storms, so that, because I said, you know, you risk them being thrown downstream.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if you want any additional action there. I didn't issue them even a violation letter. I just had a conversation with them.
Yeah, that's probably what was necessary.
Okay. And 84 on Pleasant and 145 Lincoln each got a violation letter.
Yep.
Okay.
55 Ridge Road, I drove by and saw tree removal with a crane. I stopped and spoke with the tree removal company, saying they should have gone to permit because they were within 100 feet of the pond. They said the owner had assured them they got all the necessary permits. They got 0 permits, but they were removing it with a crane and from the driveway. So they wouldn't have done it any differently. It was skyhook tree. The skyhook tree has officially been warned. So you see them doing anything, next would be a violation letter. But I didn't stop the work because they were doing it, and they said it was hazard trees. The trees were hanging over the utility lines there. Then I got a hold of the owner and we had a long conversation, and she does want to do some landscaping. So I'm going to help her. If it's a small project, a small landscaping project, I'll help her with an RDA. If it's a larger project, just she got a full educational email about exactly what activities are permitted and what are not, and you know, to come up with a scope, and then I'd help her figure out what permits she needed. But basically everything on that lot needs a permit.
Yeah, this is the house that's down the hill a bit off of Ridge.
Yep, and you access, the driveway is from Danforth.
Okay.
The new owner lives on Danforth. She said she wasn't the owner, but she spoke for the owner. I don't know if it's a relative or something, but she was the representative. And she's been in contact with me. She called, actually, when I was away this weekend, she emailed and said she'd like to discuss it further. So
Good.
So they just got a violation email. 10 Davis Ave just got a violation email. They cleared vegetation along the stream. That's the same place as the culvert replacement, right as you get onto Davis Ave. It turns out it's the owner, it's Oberg land. And, you know, the properties kind of shift around between the trust and private ownership. And so Bruce Oberg had purchased the property from the trust, and he's trying to expand pasture. So I'm working with him to try to get him to apply for 61A. He's got the ponies, the miniature ponies up on Davis Street.
Yeah.
So he wants to put some goats in his miniature ponies down there, no structures, just fencing. So we're going to try to put together, I'm helping him prepare an RDA for the work, and it is just new agriculture, it's pasture. And this was existing, I did find aerials from like 1995 that show pasture land there and access way behind the houses on Stirrup or Bridle Path or something.
Bridle, I think.
This is going to be one of those ones where I help him prepare and you guys review it. And that will hopefully come in for the August 12th meeting. Any questions on that one? No.
No.
Okay. 432 Whitney Street. There was activity that he was working on the road again. We issued a cease and desist with the help of town council. I visited the site with Fred Litchfield, the town engineer, and Bob Frederico, the zoning enforcement officer. We did meet Mr. Anza on the property. He told us not to enter the property. I asked him, you know, the last we had spoke was over a year ago, and he had agreed to apply for, he was very clear. He had a cease and desist back then, that he had to apply for a permit if he wanted to construct a road. And his comment was that he would not be applying for any permits because he didn't feel that any permits he applied for would ever get approved. So he was just going to use the cart path. And I said, you know, you can use it as it was before, but you can't be adding the fill. That stands. So we got issued a cease and desist. I've been visiting the site weekly and there's been no activity. There's actually regrowth. And it went for sale. And you should buy it.
We should buy it.
Just buy it. Let's pass a hat.
It could be like a 36-hole disc golf course.
Or maybe any other ideas for it?
I get an idea. Well, yeah. Hey.
Okay. Any questions on that one? We're just sort of watching it.
I don't want them in me.
Well, I guess it's good that there's no activities.
Mm-hmm. And it's for sale, so I'm hoping somebody buys it and we can argue with the next person.
Why am I the only one living in a circus here?
I'm not at home. I left.
My circus days are over.
Mia, did you skip over Cold Harbor?
Cold Harbor. Yes, they're coming July 8th. Cold Harbor, that's a can of worms. So they're going to be the
Coming
first
here,
thing.
who's coming?
The state, Department of Conservation and Recreation Engineering Division. There's two issues on the site, the management of the dogs and the management of a flood control facility. We are not going to talk about the management of the dogs. It's not our jurisdiction. But they did destroy a stream bank, and the engineering division is coming up with a plan to restore it, which includes excluding dogs from the area because the dogs did the damage. But as far as like long-term management of dogs, but that's not on the agenda tonight. It'll be on July 8th. They're going to come in. We really can't discuss it tonight because the abutters have all asked to be invited to that meeting, and I told them it was July 8th. They're going to be the first thing on the agenda because it's state personnel. So it's your taxpayer dollars.
All right. Mount Pisgah.
Oh, Pisgah. Where do we start?
Yeah, really.
Oh, it's they just keep cutting. There's a lot of confusion on the property. You know, I visit it weekly. Tom reports stuff, Todd reports stuff. We do clearing, we do restoring. People put these rocks up pointing into paths they're starting to build, and I rip them apart. And the next week they're there again. And we've had a lot of conversations with a lot of mountain bikers. I don't know who did the damage. People are saying hunters or mountain bikers. Who knows? But it was done. Over 500 trees were cut. You've seen the pictures. They continue to be cut. They continue to be moved. I visit the loop a lot. There's a lot of activity on the loop right as you go on Smith Road. It extended into, this is one thing of note, it extended into Berlin. My good friend called me on her cell phone and she said, I'm on the Oberg Overlook in Berlin and there's mountain bikers and they're cutting trees right now in front of me. And she was yelling at them. And she's like, why are you doing this? And if you're familiar with the Oberg Overlook, it's a big drop, right? Yeah. It's a face, it's a sheer face. They go over it. They go whoosh, right over the face. And they told my friend, we have to get rid of these pine trees so we can see what we're doing. I called the police. She filed a police report. They were not caught. Yeah, we didn't catch them. The police did go out to both parking areas and didn't catch them. The Berlin Conservation Commission went out the next day and just re-slashed it so hard that it hasn't been cleared again. Like they didn't use equipment. They must be like the Hulk or something. They moved these logs that just can't be moved and restored it.
Well, I think we need to consider eliminating the access of bicycles to the Mount Pisgah area in Northborough.
Pretty radical.
Yep. It's pretty radical what destruction's going on. So, if you can't catch them, then I guess everybody suffers from it. And all of the mountain bikers are going to be eliminated. Done.
Appreciate your forthrightness tonight. I'm not there yet.
I am.
I know. I appreciate that. I'm not there yet.
Do we have wildlife cams we can put up there?
There's been a wildlife camera installed. They haven't, the only listed photo they found was a photo of Tom.
Yeah.
Tom went up on his gator and installed a bunch of signs, because all my signs, they were poorly installed signs, all got ripped down. So Tom went up with like a ladder, and so you can see him on his tractor. They're like, this is the only fellow we think is questionable. And I was like, no, it's okay.
It's all my fault.
So I joined the Facebook page for the Blackstone Valley mountain bikers. And there's a lot of, from their point of view. So Todd, up on Howard Ridge, you keep dragging limbs across the places that are sheer, that it's impossible to hike, right? Yep. And we're saying, all right, there's two paths here. There's a hiking path and there's a bike jump. And the hikers can't go on the bike jump. So we're going to block that off and we're just going to have a hiking path. Well, the bikers are actually posting on Facebook and they're going, somebody needs to contact these land managers because somebody's screwing up the jumps. And they must be amateurs who don't like hard jumps because now it's so easy you can ride a beach bike up it. And I've been contacting with Bob Mihalik and Brian Belfer. They're Trails Committee members. They're also members of this Blackstone Valley. And every time I ask them, I say, Brian, go get this guy, go tell him. And so Brian went and was like, dude, it is the land managers. This is a hiking trail. It's not a bike trail. And the land managers, so I really think we need a lot of education and I want to do temporary signage, like a little, I have some pictures I can share. It's like a sign on post that says like area regrowing, please leave it alone with Northborough Conservation Commission. And so
Or we could put a sign that says no bikes.
But we've had bikes up there for years without significant problems. It's only been within the last 6 months that it's like caught on fire.
Because they
I
have
don't know if that's
nothing
because
else
people
to do.
Sorry?
They have nothing else to do. They're all home.
People are bored.
Yeah, I don't know if, I mean, it's actually, it started before then. I really first started seeing it like in January, but it certainly accelerated. But like I said, I think some of the people that are doing it, a little bit of education, a little bit of those people grow older and maybe it'll get under control again. But if it does keep up, I would consider banning it, but I'm not there yet.
So it'll take another 500 pine trees so that they can see more, then we'll stop them.
Mia, is there some way where you could approach this group, the Blackstone bikers, whoever they are, and let them know that this conversation is taking place, that closing the mountain off to bikers is being discussed?
Yeah, I would like to have some kind of, we can't have a public meeting, but we could, post on their Facebook page saying we're going to have, like, maybe have a special meeting and publicize it.
I'm not thinking special. I'm thinking the word has to get out to them that the next step's going to be shutting it down.
Okay.
Is there a way we could, I don't know, get their input and see where they want to ride and make areas that we let them go in, and so they feel like they have ownership of that place, and then they kind of stay in those areas? Because I used to work at REI, and my ex-husband's a biker, and I gotta tell you, they are not gonna listen to it's almost more of a challenge when you shut something down. Then they go in with headlamps.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if maybe we gave them ownership of an area or said, hey, this is your area, and we made it super technical, then they, prided themselves in staying in their area.
There are a few places that that are very technical that have been there for years.
Yeah, it's known.
And my vision was sort of, with the Trails Committee, figuring out where the trails are supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put those back, mark those again, because it's been a while. Close off the ones that aren't supposed to be there. And and some of those, the more popular bike trails can stay.
And the data is out there. I was talking with some of the mountain bikers, and there's these trails like if you picture the Loop and Sparrow, there is a spur that connects the two, and it has been there for decades. And it is well put in, it's got stonework, it's not on any maps. Then you've got a whole bunch of spaghetti. They use the trail apps, have all of our trails already on them. And it already has heat map, it has use data based on heat signatures. So we can see what people are using. And there's a lot of trails that go off to private property. Down on the Loop, there's one that kind of heads off to property, and there's a tiny little circle about this big that just says trail and it has a line through it, like not a trail, And if we could really map out what's going on out there, what's being used, have more accurate maps. We can't put any maps on the Fish and Wildlife. All those trails are off maps. And they're like in the middle. It's a big slice in the middle of your land. So let me show you a sign that I started.
I don't think signs are going to work, Mia.
No.
I don't think so. It's kind of like when you ride from New Hampshire, Massachusetts, the Massachusetts sign, it's all full of bullet holes. It's a similar situation.
Yeah.
There seems to be confusion about who the land managers are and what they're doing. And now we've got the open space plan, the open space and recreation plan. We can put goals specific to Mount Pisgah.
I agree with Mia. I think the sign, I mean, they're going to take them down, but it's a pressure campaign in opposition to them over time.
But if we work with them and get their input, then they'll think it's their own great idea to stay in a certain area.
Yeah, but the problem is their great ideas are to make more trails and big jumps and ride down the faces of the ledge cliffs, and they're not trails. It's not the original use of those trails. And at this point, there are so many little offshoots that people that are trying to actually walk on a trail get lost because you don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's out of control. And I unfortunately think it's just time to say you're done.
Could we physically, is there a way to physically ban bikes from the mountain?
Yeah, we make we vote as a board. It's our property. We control it. You know, all we need to do is, it's just like we made it no hunting. You know, you have to come in, get a request from the commission to go hunting there. You know, it's the same thing. We just vote to close it off to mountain bikes, done. Close it off to all bikes, done.
We probably need Berlin's assistance with that, because a lot of them are coming in off of Lyman Street.
We can't close Berlin. We can only close what's ours. You know,
it would be nice to have a unified decision on this. But you could do it because you know where they're coming in. You could sign it. You could patrol it. There was discussion about giving the police department some sort of vehicle to do this.
The police would they said they applied to CPC a few years ago, and the police chief said that would really solve the problem, is if we bought an ATV with conservation fund money, and he said it would be $8,000 to $10,000, he would license it, insure it, and maintain it and store it. And he said he could get his guys up there once a day to do all the trails. You know, patrolling wouldn't be an issue. It would be a delightful piece. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it would solve the cutting.
Yeah.
It's not that much money. Doesn't need to go through CPC. You can just land management. I don't think you should make any decisions tonight. That's my recommendation. I think we should put it on the agenda again and invite the Trails Committee and the Open Space Committee members. Just let them know we're talking about it.
I agree with that.
I just want to make a motion to close it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion to close Mount Pisgah to bikes, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Is there a second on that? No second.
Do you think that there's a potential, I'm not going to second that. I don't think I'm ready to go there quite yet either. But I mean, I wonder if, you know, could we do it for a certain amount of time too, with signs that are posted out at the trails that, you know, due to excessive cutting and excessive clearing of the land, these trails are closed to mountain bikes for 2 months, for 3 months. I don't know, something so that it's clear the reasoning why it's closed, and then a length of time or something like that. Almost as like a, you know, hey, here's what we're gonna do, you know, this is the first step, you know, if this isn't abided by, you know, you go to kind of phase 2, I guess, from there. I mean, it's another thing to enforce, so who knows if it works, but there could be a lot of signage around that and why it's closed too.
We'd need to spend some money. We'd need to use equipment to put in some boulders and some sawhorses and some trail cams. You know, because
Yeah.
a sign saying it's closed isn't enforceable.
Right.
Can we have a
Well,
pub?
tough, and I can even see, buying a four-wheeler and getting more patrol up there, seems good, but is that a good use of, the officer's time and stuff too, to be out there driving around versus,
I think it is. They have to, so they had mountain bikes.
Yeah.
And I asked the policeman I was walking with, I said, would it be reasonable for a 40-year-old woman to start mountain biking so I could patrol Pisgah? And he said his two officers were in their 20s and they both were injured mountain biking. It's not a beginner course. He advised me against it. So, I mean, they've tried to patrol a mountain bike, one dislocated his shoulder and I think the other one hurt his knee.
Well, Tom, we have no second to your motion.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is Diane, you're muted. Are
Oh,
you talking? We can't hear you, Diane. I don't know. Greg, can you unmute her?
Do I have that? Let me see here. Where is she? All I can do is ask to unmute her. Wait a second. Yeah, just ask to unmute her.
That's correct. Just the ability to ask her, which has been done.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we should probably think about it and come back and talk about it in 10 days.
Do you want me to put it on the July agenda?
I think it should be in the July agenda.
there is another section where on the loop trail, somebody has been actually going and taking all of the rocks out of the brook and stacking them on the bank.
Yep. I've been checking them back in.
Why are they doing that? Why?
Because they're bored.
It's art.
Well, we can have them start moving brush off of the disc golf course if they're bored and stuff to do.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think we need a multi approach here. I think we need to get social media involved and let them know that the clock is ticking here, guys and gals. I mean, you got to cut it out. Maybe a signage campaign that's in conjunction with that. Discussion with Berlin about what we're thinking about doing. But
I'm going to try to make more robust website pages for Kearney Park and for Mount Pisgah, just with more information. At both places, people are like, are bikes allowed? Are dogs allowed?
How about an art? I'm not sure. How about an article like in the Community Advocate or some newspaper?
That one, they covered it. The cuttings.
Okay.
We need to put stuff up where the bikers are, like at Landry's, at REI, at Eastern Mountain Sports, where they go.
That's a good idea, Kelly.
My ex is a mountain bike mechanic, so there's these places where they all kind of hang out.
Brian and Bob are really helpful. They're really active in that community, and they'll help me find places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you invite them to the meeting next month too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any more discussion on Mount Pisgah? All right. We are 3 minutes away from our stop time. Mia, can we run through quickly the Ridge Road Culvert Project emergency cert and the insignificant project change?
Yes. So just to vote to ratify that we had to do an emergency certification for the Ridge Road Railroad culvert. We had to unblock it. This is months ago. It's been unblocked. It's running fine. It blew out the road a little bit. There's steel plates. So if you wouldn't mind voting to ratify that emergency certification.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Tom. We'll vote it. Diane,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. 156 Pleasant Street, insignificant project change.
So they put some riprap along the slope of the driveway. And so we got a letter from the engineer that it's a request for insignificant project change. And they used riprap on the north side of the driveway serving the slot. And the slope in question is a 2-to-1. And the site plans referenced includes a detail of proposed stabilization with grades between 1-to-1 and 3-to-1 calling for North American green erosion control mat. And for 1-to-1 slopes, riprap. In this case, the applicant was conservative and applied the riprap stabilization. And you know, it's fine. It actually is going to act like a barrier because the north side is the side with the wetlands. So this riprap slope will actually kind of prevent people from mowing down into the wetland buffer. So and it's a better slope stabilization. So I think it's fine, but it is a deviation from the approved plan.
Do we have to vote to accept that?
Yes, that you have to vote that it is an insignificant project change or if it's significant and they need to do an amendment. And I recommend it as insignificant.
Okay.
Any opposition to that?
No.
No? Need a motion then?
I motion that we accept the insignificant project change.
For
Second.
156 Pleasant Street?
For 156 Pleasant Street.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Tom Beal seconds. We'll vote it. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig. Todd Helwig's on mute.
That took a while.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. Yes. Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Morriston,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. The entire agenda, 9:30 and 30 seconds. Not
Just
bad.
one more thing. Do you want to talk about Wayne next time?
Yes, we'll talk
July
about Wayne
8th.
next time. Yes.
Come with ideas. We'll give him a plaque, but if you think of anything he likes that we could, we could all, if you don't mind, we could all pitch in $10 and buy him something he likes, like a restaurant gift certificate and a thank you card. I'm open to
Okay.
any ideas, but he put in a lot of years. I don't know how many years, just a lot.
20 plus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Wow.
Give a tackle box with our faces on it.
Hockey stick, more faces on the pucks.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Golf. Let's
Okay.
golf.
Okay, so I'm good with doing that.
Okay,
Yep, that's fine. That sounds fine, Mia.
okay. So I'll let you know next time. Email me what you're willing to do or drop it in the Dropbox. There's a little slot where you can drop off a check or cash. I'm trying to think we should, maybe cash, and we'll just pay cash for it. I'll
Yeah.
drive to wherever it is and buy the thing. And it's just a token of thank you.
Good.
All right,
Good.
and then everybody coming on July 8th. Is everyone free on July 8th?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Diane?
Be-
An actual meeting?
Nope, Zoom meeting,
What time?
6
Sounds
PM.
good. I think we're good. Mia, or anything on the agenda you know ahead of time?
We'll start with Cold Harbor and then
Yep.
we have that CSX,
CSX, right?
mhm,
Okay, so okay.
Mount Pisgah.
And the
We didn't
windows
really
closed.
continue anything tonight, right? Did we continue anything?
Everything closed that was opened.
Yeah, we just pushed two off that want to be pushed off. So yeah.
Yeah.
Clean slate. Not bad.
Good.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Kelly seconds. We'll vote it last time tonight. Diane Goldner,
Yes.
Tom Beals,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
Justin Dufresne,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I also vote yes.
All right,
Very well, folks. Thank you. Stay well.
good
Great
job,
job,
guys.
Greg and Mia, putting it together for the
Thank
first
you,
one.
David Kane.
Thank
Yeah,
you, David
thank
Kane.
you, David.
Yes, sir. David, you're the man.
Good to see you all.
Good to be
Bye.
seen. Thanks,
Bye.
guys and ladies.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.